A golden-haired elite sneers at Riku, calling him a total defect who can't do anything but cast basic shields. Without a shred of mercy, he exiles the boy right there in the heart of a desolate wasteland. Our blue-haired mage stands frozen in disbelief, blindsided by this betrayal on the trek back home. They just cleared a dungeon, yet Riku can't wrap his head around the cold words echoing in his ears. The leader doubles down, barking that Riku is nothing but dead weight, who needs to vanish immediately. Desperation claws at the caster as he begs for an explanation why throw him away like garbage. The blonde snarls that tomorrow's raid is elite tier, and a weakling like him would only sabotage their success. With a gaze that could kill, he reveals his true identity, the one and only Ochiburo. This isn't just some jerk, he's the crown prince himself, blessed with the legendary hero class. A title meant for slaying the Demon King, now reduced to a flashy status symbol in a world without a villain. The camera pans over the sprawling capital, showcasing a majestic horizon of ancient stone and royal grandeur. The king is playing politics, sending his son on dungeon raids just to farm reputation for the throne. Assigned as the prince's guard, Riku is crushed when the noble reminds him he's just a useless burden. Riku hangs his head as that old stinging nickname resurfaces, the defective mage of his hometown. It's his curse since birth. The only magic he could ever manifest was a simple shield. The egotistical leader flexes his power, claiming he's far too elite to need protection from a weakling. Grinning with pure arrogance, he brags about one-shotting every monster during their previous dungeon run. We see him dancing through battle, a whirlwind of steel, mocking Riku for even thinking he'd take a hit. Riku clenches his fists in silent fury, forced to swallow his pride and nod in painful agreement. Not a single scratch. Drawing his blade, the prince declares that for a master of his caliber, a flimsy barrier is a joke. Riku softly admits that defense is indeed his only specialty, but he tries to defend his worth until a thunderous roar from the prince cuts him off mid-sentence. The noble spits that a one-trick pony has no place here, refusing to hear another pathetic excuse. Riku attempts to explain the mechanics of his magic, but he's immediately shut down and told to pipe down. Shock washes over the blue-haired boy as the leader goes on an unhinged, high-volume tirade. Remaining respectful, the commoner points out that monsters never breached their camp once under his watch. He reveals he's been shielding their very bodies, but the swordsman laughs it off as a total fairy tale. The hero sneers, dismissing it as a basic dome shield that even a mana-starved amateur could pull off. Desperate to prove his worth, Riku explains his versatility, insisting he only wanted to be the ultimate support. The leader scoffs. He's never heard of body-bound defense, and certainly never felt any help from a weakling. With a look of pure disgust, the royal brat reminds Riku that he was lucky to be noticed as a commoner. That fluke got him into the Royal Academy, where the genius set record scores to become the youngest court mage. He was one of the kingdom's elite 12, but the prince claims that when the real fighting started, the kid was just a broken product. Stung by the insult, Riku quietly insists that he was casting his magic. He did it all for the leader's protection, terrified of what might happen if his guard ever dropped. Drunk on his own ego, the hero snaps that Riku was just wasting mana on useless, unwanted tricks. To twist the knife, the swordsman questions if the boy was even doing anything besides standing there. Riku is lost. The conversation is spiraling, and he can't fathom what this guy is even implying. The leader screams that Riku's so-called shields are invisible to the eye, making them impossible to verify. Riku nods, knowing the truth. Those defenses are only invisible to people with zero magical talent. Smirking, the prince assumes the commoner was just faking his spells to get carried to a free payday. The royal snob clenches his fist, accusing Riku of being a greedy leech, blinded by the gold they earned. The mage lowers his gaze, a heavy silence falling as he surprisingly agrees with the accusation. He admits it, securing a massive bag was his primary motivation for joining this toxic party. The blue-haired youth reveals the real reason he swore himself to the royal service. With a cold smirk, the heir claims he always knew the court's stable salary was the only thing keeping him around. He clenches his fists, branding the guard as nothing but greedy trash trying to collect a paycheck without lifting a finger. Desperately, the commoner tries to explain that every coin was meant for his struggling family back home. The blonde noble scoffs, reminding him that a lowly orphan doesn't have a single relative left to support. The guard's gaze drops in sorrow, as he quietly confirms that he truly grew up without the warmth of parents. Fragments of his past reveal a childhood spent in a crumbling orphanage on the capital's desolate outskirts. Heartbroken, the boy explains that the gold was a donation to the only place that ever showed him kindness. He looks up only to find his own teammates staring back with nothing but pure disgust and icy contempt. It hits him like a physical blow. Not a single soul in this elite party is on his side anymore. One adventurer spits out that lying just to embezzle royal coins is the most pathetic crime imaginable. The hulking warrior sneers, accusing the boy of buying his high royal status with dirty bribes and shady connections. Another helper sighs, finding it laughable that a supposed royal mage can only conjure up basic magical walls. The outcast stands in absolute silence, feeling the jagged edge of their humiliating judgments cutting deep into his soul. Amused by the spectacle, the prince flashes a wicked grin and tells the young man he isn't just getting fired. Pointing a sharp finger directly at the boy's trembling face, the leader coldly begins to seal his final fate. The leader decrees total banishment from the kingdom, sending the commoner spiraling into a state of pure, unadulterated panic. Struggling to comprehend this sudden, brutal sentence, the boy looks to the swordsman, who wears a mask of grim severity. The arrogant swordsman doubles down, claiming his former ally didn't just steal gold, but the very blood and sweat of the taxpayers. He finishes the verbal execution, stating that a talentless fraud has absolutely no right to breathe the air of this nation. The blonde warns that he has 10 days to vanish, turning his back, while acting like this mercy is a gift. Walking away, the leader scoffs that he's being incredibly kind by not executing him for the crime of staying illegally. Without a second glance, the elitist tells his old comrade to pack his trash and disappear from the realm immediately. Dumbfounded, the boy stands frozen with his mouth agape, watching his so-called friends abandon him without a shred of remorse. A torrential rain begins to pour, as the gravity of his exile finally crashes down, leaving him in total shock. Solitary on the cliffside, he prays this is just a nightmare, because being cast out of his homeland feels like madness. Desperation chokes the mage as he gasps for air, realizing the terrifying reality of his life being erased in an instant. He remembers the orphanage and his chosen family. If he leaves, he'll lose the only people he's ever truly loved. The face of his gentle caretaker flashes before his eyes, fueling the agonizing distress building up inside his chest. Picturing the innocent children back home, the boy grinds his teeth and vows that his story won't end like this. Determination ignites within him. He must clear his name and resolve this massive misunderstanding no matter what it takes. A desperate plan forms as he recalls the majestic king. Surely the ruler himself will see the truth and help. He intends to plead his case to the crown, but suddenly the air screams as a lethal threat tears through the sky. A massive spiked tail whips past his head, and a monstrous beast emerges from the shadows ready to kill. The creature lets out a blood-curdling roar, lunging forward with its jagged maw wide open to devour the young mage. Facing the beast's gaping jaws, the boy's fear vanishes as he coldly remarks that he's in a bit of a rush. Under the freezing downpour, he forms a complex hand seal, summoning a radiant square barrier that pulses with magical energy. The monster's snout slams into the solid defense, halting it mid-lunge as the warrior begins chanting his next high-level spell. Holding his focused stance, the blue-haired mage begins weaving a rare variation of his transformation technique. He points his glowing fingertips toward the beast, unleashing attack form number 5 of his secret magic. A colossal pillar of pure energy descends from the heavens, crushing the monster, as its yellow eyes widen in terror. Screaming in agony, the creature is stripped of its strength and collapses into the mud with a thunderous thud. Dust explodes as the beast's snout hits the earth, but noticing it's still breathing, the mage prepares a lethal new form. Activating his second form, he summons a hail of glowing blades that systematically shred the titan once and for all. With the gargantuan beast finally silenced, the young man reflects on the biting accusations his former leader spat at him. He reaches out his hand, ironically agreeing with the leader's previous insults. Our hero admits barriers are his only trick. But don't be fooled. These shields are deadlier than they look. Towering over the monster, the low-born mage declares. He's got teeth too. His system packs 3 lethal modes: offense, defense, and support. Suddenly, the sky turns black. An entire swarm of dragons descends upon him. Boxed in, our warrior glares up at the winged nightmare choking the horizon. Exhausted, he curses his rotten luck. Why do these pests show up when he's in a hurry? Embracing his pathetic title, he clasps his hands, surging with an ocean of raw mana. Radiating pure light, he reveals the hellish training behind his barrier. It's time for his ultimate move. The pariah triggers the class's second secret technique. Instantly, a blinding supernova erupts. Ripping through the battlefield, the magic incinerates the swarm, erasing every dragon in a heartbeat. The chaos vanishes, leaving a serene azure sky. Taking in the view, he finally breathes out. We shift focus miles from the capital deep into the southwestern reaches of this vast empire. Tucked in the mountains lies a peaceful hamlet, the modest cradle where our mage's story began. Strolling down the dusty paths, the cloaked youth finally stands before his childhood home. With hollow eyes and heavy bones, he wanders solo, replaying the nightmare of his recent betrayal. Freshly exiled, his boots drag through the dirt, each step echoing his fallen status. Lost in thought, he slams into a hulking local who spins around face twisted in irritation. The brute roars, invading his space and barking insults about the boy's lack of respect. Before fists fly, a girl in azure intervenes, commanding the giant to cut the nonsense immediately. Meet Flair, a stunning blonde with a gaze sharp enough to cut through steel. The village's undisputed queen bee, she marches toward the conflict with total boss energy. Making it clear she runs these streets, she demands to know exactly what the drama is about. The man whines about the lack of an apology, but Flair isn't buying his petty excuses. She snaps back, schooling the local on how to actually welcome a weary traveler properly. Seeing his broken spirit, she argues that he suffered enough without being screamed at by bullies. Flustered, the man bows to her, but she points a finger. Apologize to him instead. Standing her ground, Flare forces the aggressor to own up to his reckless behavior. Our hero is floored. He never expected anyone to stick their neck out for him. Finding his voice, the young mage offers a sincere, humble apology for his lapse in focus. Conflict averted, the villager retreats, leaving the two alone under the quiet afternoon sun. The tension melts away as Flare beams at him. "Welcome home," she says softly. A whole year has passed. Relief washes over him as she pulls him into a warm embrace. She's missed him like crazy, but her smile fades as she spots the exhaustion on his face. Flare Cereal, that's her name, softly asks if he's been through hell lately. He tenses up instantly. As the orphanage director's daughter, she knows him better than anyone. They were inseparable. From school days to her becoming a royal mage, she remained his constant. She was his rock, never letting go even when his world was falling apart. Over drinks, he reveals the cold reality how the royal guards tossed him out of the castle. Then comes the bombshell. He's only here to say goodbye, before fleeing the kingdom forever. After hearing his tragedy, Flare doesn't blink. "Fine," she says, "then I'm coming with you." He's stunned. Is she serious? But her gaze is unwavering. She's not letting him go alone. She drops the L word right then and there, leaving our hero bright red and speechless. With a tender look, the sorceress vows to follow him to the very ends of the earth. She takes his hand, grounding him. She admires his grit and everything he's fought for. To her, he's already a legend. Blushing, he can only offer a quiet apology for everything. She calms his nerves, diving into the memories of long ago. Back then, he poured every cent into caring for the orphans, pivoting quickly. She shares that the director now spearheads the local guild. The news shocks the outcast, but the old man's upcoming wedding floors him. Whispering a secret, she explains her father finally embraced life after his loss. Chasing peace, he finds that his friend's new stepmother is a total powerhouse. Her grind paid off. The orphanage is thriving and no longer needs his gold. The exile takes it all in, finally grasping the orphanage's bright new reality. Softly, she reminds him of the crushing weight he's carried for years. He's finally free to live. With a heavy gaze, he echoes her promise. Embracing this freedom, she grips his hand, asking if any bitterness remains inside. Stealing his heart, he locks eyes with her and spills his deepest feelings. Overjoyed, she leans against his hands, whispering that staying by his side is everything. He admits he was already prepping to drop this bombshell at their next meetup. With major attitude, the mage mocks the kingdom, stoked to leave it all behind. Beaming, the blue-haired mage nods, a massive wave of relief washing over him. She formally requests to journey with her love, ditching the village for good. He accepts, and the new duo prepares for an epic adventure far away. Meanwhile, in the capital, a thunderous roar shakes the walls. Someone is fuming. The king screams for his idiot son to be dragged into the throne room. He instantly sentences the guard who blocked the mage to the soul-crushing mines. The advisor scoffs, but the king threatens to exile him for doubting a genius. Face in palm, the ruler declares that the banished boy was a literal god-tier genius. With a piercing glare, he insists such talent only surfaces once every 1,000 years. He points to the massive invisible barrier shielding the capital from monster raids. Drenched in cold sweat, the servant freezes. The outcast built that legendary defense. The king confirms it. The barrier master also slaughtered those terrifying invading dragons. In a flash, the sovereign reveals a hidden forbidden art within barrier magic. The boy mastered a power that completely shatters the limits of human intellect. The king reveals his tight bond with the Magic Academy's director and mentor. They hyped his talent constantly. Sternly, he repeats, a genius this cracked is rare. 1 millennium, 1 legend. He points up, questioning if they even understand the barrier. Glasses guy reels. He thought a single person creating that shield was physically impossible. The king doubles down. Those dragons vanished because of the exile's absolute power. He weaponized barriers with lethal precision. Just then, the prince strolls in, beaming. He brags about kicking that useless guard out, grinning like an idiot. The heir gloats over firing the criminal, wasting tax gold. Hearing this garbage, the king shakes. His blood boils at his son's sheer stupidity. Exploding, the father calls him a fool. Terrifying, the king roars that his idiocy just unleashed the world's strongest mage. The fallout will rock the globe. Strolling down a dark path, she says goodbye. They must visit Mr. Dirian first. Beaming, she suggests announcing their marriage before leaving. He turns bright red. Nervous, he asks if she's ready to never come home again. Silently, the blonde leaps into his arms, pulling him into a loving embrace. She vows to back his journey forever, though he tries to talk her out of it. Cutting him off, the mage insists she's fine. This was her choice alone. Eyes sparkling with affection, she whispers her gratitude for his presence before dragging him toward her father's house. Man up already, she teases, as the silver radiance of a full moon washes over the midnight landscape. Reaching their goal, the duo creeps toward the window, stealing a quick glance through the aged wood frame. Their target is wide awake. The veteran inside squints through the glass, his brow furrowing as he senses intruders. Recognition hits, and a grin erupts across his face. Riku, how has the adventurer life been treating you, kid? No hesitation, the daughter drops a massive truth bomb announcing her plans to marry the powerful mage right then. Plot twist. The old man doesn't just agree. He's absolutely hyped about the news, catching everyone off guard. Riku is reeling from the bluntness, but the veteran's expression turns serious. He has seen the boy's raw power firsthand. He vouches for Riku's integrity, knowing nobody on this earth would cherish his daughter more than our main lead. With a hearty laugh, he confesses he saw this coming, mostly because his daughter never shuts up about her man. Cringing into another dimension, the blonde delivers a swift kick to her father's shin to shut him up. As the old man howls, the blushing girl snaps, telling him to keep his embarrassing comments to himself. When asked about their future home, the exiled mage awkwardly admits he has been kicked out of his own kingdom. She spills the tea with burning rage, recounting how that brainless prince had the audacity to call Riku useless. Stroking his chin, the veteran casually drops a flex. He was actually the one who trained that spoiled noble. Arms crossed, he reveals his past life as a legendary S-rank adventurer, leaving his daughter's jaw on the floor. Riku is shook. How could he hide such a massive secret? The old warrior sighs, beginning his explanation. It was a royal secret, but he was fired early because he refused to suck up to the annoying heir. Riku realizes the truth. The blonde prince has been a world-class clown since the day he was born. Softening his gaze, the father tells them to move on. His daughter's joy is the only thing that matters. His footsteps echo across the floorboards as a sudden, crucial memory flashes through his mind. The retired legend unlocks a corner cabinet, pulling out a hidden treasure intended for the young couple. He presents a massive sack of gold as a wedding gift, but Riku immediately tries to decline the fortune. Despite Riku's protests about not deserving the wealth, the veteran father refuses to take no for an answer. "This is your wedding fund, kid," he smiles, waving off any attempts to return the hard-earned savings. He promises to guard the orphanage alongside his wife, earning Riku's deepest respect for his unwavering noble spirit. After accepting the gift with a bow, the father sighs, wishing his wife were here to witness this moment. Surprise! The mom is also a high-tier S-ranker, but suddenly the atmosphere shifts and turns cold. The warrior warns of a vampire infestation nearby, causing Riku's expression to darken with immediate concern. Recalling the bloodthirst of these immortal beasts, the old man's face turns grave as he issues a warning. Dark whispers suggest the Queen of the Night is returning, an ancient vampire, monarch of pure nightmare. She was an unstoppable force that required a seal to contain. Fortunately, the blonde girl shatters the tension. Brimming with confidence, she gestures toward her man, reminding her father of exactly who she is traveling with. He is the world's greatest barrier master. Riku offers a smirk, fully embracing his future wife's hype. Gripping her hand, Riku swears a silent oath to protect her, his eyes blazing with a terrifying resolve. He will obliterate any vampire lord in his path. The veteran tenses up, haunted by the creature's immortality. Seeing Riku's hidden potential, he relents. Our hero vows that when protecting his loved one's, failure isn't an option. "I will never lose." The father exhales in relief, entrusting his daughter's safety to the young mage once more. Massive trunks slam onto the floor as she giggles an apology, leaving both men stunned by the luggage. Wondering how they will carry it all, she just laughs, asking if her dad forgot about her fiancé's magic. Mana surges as Riku chants, activating barrier support form number 5, causing the luggage to glow with arcane energy. Poof! The heavy bags vanish into thin air, instantly stored away in a pocket dimension of his own making. The retired legend is floored, realizing Riku's barrier arts are on a whole different level of insanity. Riku grins, explaining that his secret techniques cover everything from absolute defense to total offensive destruction. Our mysterious shield master hints that he is still holding back while his girl glows with pride. Their safety is guaranteed. His overwhelming aura leaves no room for challengers. The youth locks in, declaring it is finally time to move. He bids farewell to his father-in-law. The elder observes the duo with eyes overflowing with genuine warmth and immense pride. The boy bows in deep gratitude as the silver moon rises, signaling the official start of their legendary journey. While trekking, the girl suggests the neighboring empire, where even commoners can grind their way into high-ranking nobility through merit. The sorcerer smirks, agreeing with the plan, until his face suddenly drops as he detects a creepy unknown presence. Freezing inside the pitch-black woods, the hero instantly orders his soulmate to take cover within a shimmering magic barrier. Confused, the blonde beauty questions the sudden tension while moonlight hits his stressed face. Wordlessly, the youth sparks his mana. Conjuring a glowing energy cube around his fiancée, the warrior bellows a warning that hostile forces are rapidly closing in. While bracing for impact, a massive explosion erupts out of nowhere, sending a suffocating wall of debris into the air. The blast craters the earth. Yet the Shieldmaster stands his ground, facing the threat without flinching a single inch. As the haze clears, his perfect defense remains unbroken, while a twisted evil laugh echoes through the midnight forest. A silver-haired woman descends from the sky, greeting the mortals with a truly sadistic and terrifying smile. Our hero recognizes the mythical vampire who introduces herself as the nightmare-inducing Queen of the Night. Savory hunger fuels her gaze as she licks her lips. The antagonist claims she caught a delicious scent and decided to have a little snack. The monster lunges, but the youth moves instantly. Invoking his barrier's first offensive form, glowing astral bullets swarm around the mage, ready for a lethal high-speed discharge. Struck hard, the eternal being collapses in shock, since physical strikes are supposed to be useless against her undead constitution. The outcast stares down coldly, warning the creature never to mess with the couple's fresh start at a new life. Furious, the vampire screams not to look down on her, but the hero retorts with a much more dominating authority. Reaching out the iron wall, Sorcerer declares he will be the one to defeat her today. With a dark, confident smirk, the bloodsucker hungrily whispers the blonde's name with pure malice. The protagonist then tells his beloved to stay put. Softly promising that no harm shall touch her, the maiden nods, her cheeks flushed with a deep, radiant crimson hue. She urges the fighter to give his best in this brutal clash. With that, the wizard prepares to confront his foe. While his betrothed observes from her safe energy prism, the Queen of the Night lets out a dismissive, arrogant scoff. Mocking his bizarre parlor tricks, she claims they pale before her true might. Floating high above the dark forest floor, the antagonist erupts with a colossal crimson aura. Instantly, every blooming flower in the field begins to shrivel and rot away, unveiling her horrific life-siphoning magic. Within seconds, the trees turn into dry husks, proving the strength of her cursed gift. The beast boasts about harvesting all surrounding life to amplify her power. Monitoring the destruction with a calm gaze, the barrier specialist analyzes the scene as the enemy's ego crumbles into confusion. The vampire is now in total shock, screaming in disbelief, unable to process the reality she demands to know how the young man is still standing, as her curse should theoretically wither even a god-tier dragon's soul. Shaking in disbelief, the immortal shrieks that no basic defensive spell should resist her power. The monster asks how a mere shield, designed for physical parries, managed to nullify her energy-based strike. The sorcerer coolly clarifies his absolute logic, that his sanctuary negates any attack carrying harmful intent. Consumed by madness, the villain bellows that she has never encountered such broken logic in her entire life. Gravely, the outcast tells the enemy to remember this. Before he finishes her, the warrior weaves a hand seal, concentrating his massive mana reserves for the next strike. Suddenly, intricate glowing runes materialize around the youth, showcasing his true authority. Caught in the pressure, the vampire is racked with agonizing pain, finally realizing that the situation has turned catastrophically against her. Unfurling massive leathery wings, the creature prepares her next strike with a furious look. The wizard recognizes the technique and realizes those wings are forged from her own lifeblood. Grinning, the monster confirms she is a master of blood manipulation. Soaring high and screaming with raw hatred, the immortal orders the mortal human to perish into dust. She discharges a devastating crimson beam. The attack, called Blood Thread, pierces the air like a legendary spear toward its target. The gore magic crashes against his defense, but the barrier remains unyielding. Unfazed, the warrior merely watches the impact. With a cold, focused gaze, the enemy tells him to accept his defeat, claiming there is no way to survive. At that moment, the outcast unveils his barrier's third evolution, barely whispering the trigger word, explosion. The caster ignites a blinding new technique. Instantly, the divine protection rebounds the crimson power back at its source. A massive shockwave ripples out as the vampire stares in disbelief. Her own blood threads were just sent flying back. The legendary beast takes the full brunt of her own power. Her eyes burn with a crimson, murderous rage. Stinging with pain and total confusion, the Queen of the Night lets out a scream of pure frustration. With the tide turning, the injured immortal collapses, wondering how everything went so wrong. She bellows that her spear was supposed to be the world's ultimate weapon, a blade that could slay even gods, but our main character just coolly admits he reflected the strike. Using a mere barrier, the villain is left speechless by the revelation. He explains he made the shield's texture incredibly soft. The enemy is stunned by such genius magic. Noting her rapid healing, the mage realizes he's up against a true immortal. As she pants and bares her fangs, the young hero asks if she's already reaching her limit. He taunts the mighty queen for struggling against a mere human. She demands to know who he really is. With a mysterious smirk, he simply claims to be an average, flawed mage, a man who can only cast basic barriers. But the vampire knows a useless person couldn't do this. She warns him not to get cocky, boasting about her ancient noble bloodline. She swears a commoner won't win. In response, our hero's eyes ignite with power. Ignoring her cries, the monster triggers a blood buff, shifting into a faster, more lethal form. Like a bolt of red lightning, she tears through the air with terrifying speed. She aims straight for his jugular. Even the young mage is caught off guard by the velocity. She's right on top of him. The queen flashes a wicked, victorious grin. At this range, there's no time for shields. She lunges, grabbing the mage from behind. She thinks she's finally cornered her prey, but the young man remains completely unfazed. Even in the clutches of death, he stays calm as the monster reveals her secret art. Massive crimson claws emerge to drain the hero's life force. She laughs like a maniac. She gloats that it will be over in a heartbeat, but the protagonist doesn't break a sweat. As she promises he will wither away, the warrior leans in and whispers. "I am still standing," he murmurs, leaving the queen absolutely baffled. She can't believe any defense worked at point-blank range. That's when he reveals his fifth armor form, a microscopic invisible barrier coating his entire body. The vampire is visibly shaken. She questions if he's even human before spreading her massive wings to retreat. The Night Queen vows to end his life during their next encounter, but a shimmering cage suddenly traps her. Her path is completely blocked. There won't be a next time, he declares, activating his ultimate prison technique. He promises to erase her existence right here, but then gives a sudden apology. He informs her that she must be sealed away for all eternity. Since she can't die, the only option is to lock her soul in a cage. The barrier master pours every ounce of mana into erasing her presence from the world. Suddenly, the queen realizes he is a descendant of the legendary mages, the ones who sealed her kind ages ago. Panic sets in as she faces her natural predator. Terrified, she screams that she won't be trapped in another seal. She mourns her short-lived freedom, realizing she is about to lose everything again. With a final decisive strike, the protagonist unleashes his secret sealing art. The blinding light fades, and the hero confirms the ritual was a total success. Watching from the sidelines, the blonde girl finally lets out a deep, shaky breath. Overwhelmed with relief, the girlfriend rushes to celebrate their hard-won victory. Against the legendary vampire, the hero simply offers a gentle, tired smile. During that peaceful lull, Riku recalls his fiancée's legendary title. She's known far and wide as the Child of the Sky. Intrigued, our young lead seeks the truth behind the mystical meaning of that celestial name. He learns she's an anomaly. The blonde mentor clarifies the heavy burden such a special existence carries. Hordes of monsters will relentlessly hunt the girl to steal her essence. Perched atop a mountain of slain beasts, the master commands Riku to shield Flare from these looming shadows. But the boy wonders if his mentor will stay to help, only to be shut down with a cold, immediate refusal. Dragging on her pipe, the woman states she has her own wars to fight and can't babysit her daughter. She tasks her apprentice with guarding the blonde girl until his very last breath. No matter how grim the future turns, through brave smiles, the young warrior accepts this heavy burden. He vows to keep her safe at any cost, even his life. Beneath the silver moonlight, their fate is sealed. Flare admires his growing strength, her eyes gleaming. To her, his power is nothing short of a miracle. She brushes off the prince's insults. Exile is just a new beginning, as long as they're together. People will eventually witness his true genius as a barrier master. Riku smiles, moved by her unwavering support. With a fresh resolve, the hero decides to scout the woods, sensing an eerie chill in the air. Flare nods, trusting his instincts as he dives into the shadows to investigate the perimeter. While she waits, a strange radiance suddenly pierces the gloom right before her eyes. Out of nowhere, a shimmering silver cross lies abandoned in the muck, pulsing with a mysterious energy. Riku reaches for the artifact, but the air suddenly vibrates with a very sinister, unexpected force. Clinging to the cross, he calls out to the vampire, knowing she can hear him through the seal. A pained howl erupts from the sacred object. The dark entity is truly caged inside. He studies the glowing trinket as the villain shrieks in pure agony, unable to accept her fate. She can't stomach being bested by a lowly human. Her pride is absolutely shattered by this defeat. To be sealed by a mere commoner, impossible, but Riku tells his prisoner to prepare for a change. He floods the pendant with mana. A blinding flash consumes the forest as power surges through the metal. His unique barrier energy rewrites the seal, forcing the vampire's essence to manifest in the physical realm. The woods erupt in light as the summoning reaches its epic peak. But the result is unexpected. To their shock, the fearsome Queen of the Night reappears, rocking a very adorable maid outfit. Stunned, the creature demands to know how she's free, and why she's dressed like a common servant. Riku explains he just tweaked the seal enough to give her a tangible body to manifest in. Her true power remains locked in the pendant. The villain is genuinely shook by his high-level sorcery. With a piercing gaze, the young man reveals he only brought her out for some cold, hard facts. He demands the truth. She just scoffs, refusing to bow or answer to a simple human peasant. Big mistake. Riku triggers a restraint spell, sending waves of invisible agony through her body. As the pressure crushes her, he threatens to toss the pendant into the dark abyss of the ocean. The thought of an eternal watery grave breaks her. The immortal begs for mercy, absolutely terrified. Claustrophobia kicks in, and she finally utters the word master. Riku instantly cuts the mana flow. The crushing weight lifts, leaving her trembling. He watches her frightened reaction with a calculating eye. Panting, the silver-haired beauty seethes. Being treated like a pet is the ultimate ego death for her. The lingering sting of magic reminds her that resistance is futile. She has no choice but to obey. He demands her name. She stalls, knowing that surrendering her title means surrendering her very soul. Yielding to the pressure, she spits out her true title, Carmilla Vlad Tepes, her eyes burning with rage. "I'm Riku," he says, with a calm smirk, totally unfazed by the queen's murderous fury. She asks if he has no shame bullying a defenseless girl with such brute, shameless force. Ignoring the salt, he asks about that noble blood she mentioned during their scrap in the woods. Carmilla clarifies the term refers to her elite lineage, the legendary clan of pure-blooded vampires. Our outcast senses her kin nearby. This pint-sized terror validates her tribe's presence, her eyes dripping with pure arrogance. With a smirk, our hero calls her a bottom-tier NPC in the squad. She snaps back, labeling him a total glitch. The ancient entity bellows that he's an absolute unit, claiming a high-tier seal needs a whole squad and hours. But our lead deadpans that she's being toxic, insisting he's just your average everyday human guy, period. The tiny antagonist loses it, screaming that no mere mortal could ever solo seal the Night Queen. Ignoring the noise, our blue-haired protagonist asks about the other vampire's endgame. He locks eyes with his captive, demanding to know how she broke her shackles first. She confesses to devouring a barrier master's essence eons ago, hacking the magic to liberate herself. Shocked, the hero realizes his new subordinate actually packs some serious anti-magic hacks. He probes her for the identities and power sets of her locked-up kin. Flashing a wicked grin, she claims she's got the full tea, boasting that pure blood connection. Her crimson eyes flare with intensity as she scans her formidable new boss. But he levels a finger at the villainess, sending chills down her spine. With absolute authority, the warrior commands the Dark Queen to submit as his loyal familiar. She's completely floored, shell-shocked that a supreme being would ever simp for a human. But the outcast offers her a leash of freedom in exchange for her clan's classified intel. Instantly, she flexes her royal pride, rejecting the deal because of her elite bloodline. Big mistake. He flares the seal, crushing her with agonizing magical pressure. Then, she shrieks as his azure aura ruthlessly subdues her rebellious vampire spirit. He casually checks his silver pendant while she realizes resistance is totally futile. He stone-cold reminds her, this isn't a negotiation, her fate is already sealed. Final answer. The tiny terror barks that he's a straight-up demon, worse than any monster she knows. He just smirks, taking it as a top-tier compliment. Beneath the moon's glow, the captive asks why he craves her help, and he admits he needs her lore to clutch the victory. She swears she won't snitch, but he checks her vibe, asking if she prefers eternal lockdown. She folds immediately. Then, the mage orders total silence. He doesn't want his girl catching onto the secret stowaway. Telepathy it is. Right then, his blonde bombshell girlfriend walks up, checking his status. Scanning the area suspiciously, the blue-haired lead gives her a soft head pat to ease her nerves with a wholesome touch. Smiling, the warrior claims everything is Gucci, and she's stoked that the threat has been neutralized. Then, she pulls him into a tight embrace, radiating pure affection in the quiet forest. Inside the pendant, the vampire catches a weird scent from the girl, sparking a wild suspicion about her secret origins. Peering through the jewel, the shadow creature questions if this girl carries a legendary lineage. Suddenly, the hero calls for a move-out, prepping a forbidden barrier morphing spell. Channeling his god-tier creation powers, he spawns a full horse and carriage from thin air, leaving his girl shook. Right then, his vampire servant loses her mind at the broken magic, screaming in mental shock. He just shrugs it off, explaining the ride was crafted from pure barriers. The tiny monster is baffled. Patiently, he breaks down how he manipulates micro-shields, like atoms, to construct literally anything. The Night Queen officially loses her cool, shouting that he's a total monster with that broken power level. Finally, the epic quest of this mismatched squad kicks off, venturing into the unknown as destiny prepares its next trial. With that, they roll out in the barrier carriage, with a legendary vampire now serving as their secret familiar. Right then, the mage reveals he holds absolute dominion over everything he conjures. Their carriage glides forward, driverless. Our hero asks if she is truly vibing with that tiny furball. Grinning ear to ear, she confirms it, while aggressively cuddling the little black creature. Plot twist, it is actually a sealed monster trapped in a kitten's body, and she is totally hating it. Trapped in a cuddle prison, the grumpy feline cannot do a thing to break free. That is when our guy drops a bombshell. This cat is actually Carmilla, the queen of the night. She is screaming bloody murder inside his head, all because she would not stop whining earlier. Despising her prison inside that silver cross, her master forged this fluffy vessel for her. Using barriers as a cage for the immortal villain's soul, he is grilled on where he found it. He bluffs an excuse instantly, just as the girl begs to keep the kitty forever. He agrees, though he is low-key jealous of the cat's luck. Our warrior is straight up pouting. He is literally wishing he could swap places with the beast to get that kind of affection. Suddenly, the vampire snaps him out of it. She senses something eerie lurking nearby. Danger is brewing outside. The mage hits high alert, telling his girl to stay put. He steps out to scout the path, but she is not letting him face the unknown alone. Together, they exit the carriage to investigate the chaos trekking deep into the shadowy woods. They stumble upon fallen soldiers littering the dirt, a grim testament to a brutal losing battle. Armored warriors groan in agony, clinging to life, while one guard desperately cries out for salvation. He is in critical shape. The duo watches the carnage unfold, completely paralyzed by shock. The scale of the bloodshed is unreal. Wounded fighters scream frantically for any available healing potions. Desperate to save their brothers, the squad leader barks orders to bring every last drop of medicine. Things look bleak. Riku takes in the carnage, his expression turning ice-cold and serious. Seeing their agony in the deep woods, the blue-haired mage turns to Flare with a plan. He explains the delay in providing aid, while the blonde beauty leaps into action to help. She confronts the horror with pure grit. Meanwhile, our hero locks his focus on the dying. One soldier is knocking on death's door. The young man rushes to the fallen warrior's side. Slumped against a tree and ghostly pale, the man hears the mage introduce himself as a traveler. Claiming mastery over healing, he offers aid. The soldier exhales in relief, welcoming the miracle. But our hero freezes. Up close, he realizes this man's state is far worse than it looks. He spots it. The warrior's left arm is mangled, reduced to a horrific bloody mess. Wincing, the fighter rasps that a monstrous, colossal beast did this to him. He explains they were the hunters, but the ferocious beast turned the tables on them. Suddenly, the vampire cat begins to shake violently. A bad omen, something terrifying is coming. Worried Flare strokes the trembling kitty, asking what is wrong as the cat continues to shiver. This creature of shadow is on high alert, detecting a foul presence only she can perceive. Ready to act, the barrier master declares he is starting the emergency treatment right now. The soldier protests that lost limbs are gone forever, but the hero triggers auxiliary formula number 2. Prepping a top-tier barrier transformation, a brilliant blue radiance washes over the entire scene. Divine power begins weaving the flesh back together. This magic is literally rewriting reality. Jaw-dropped, the warrior cheers as his arm reappears, hailing the boy as a miracle worker. He is beyond grateful, ready to rejoin the hunt. Our hero just tilts his head at the term prey. While the soldier gushes with thanks, the vampire cat realizes the human is actually sensing her. She is instantly on edge from the revelation. Suddenly, the warrior bellows out to his comrades. He shouts that a legendary healer saved them, leaving our blue-haired protagonist totally flushed with embarrassment. He stammers that he is no pro-medic, but right then the soldier starts begging through tears. Focused on saving his broken allies, the hero ignites his massive barrier expansion. A colossal dome of light engulfs the forest, followed by an epic mass healing surge. Brilliant sapphire energy shatters the darkness, washing over the wounded soldiers instantly. The magic pulses through them, replacing their agony with a shocking sense of relief. We see the men's vitality return in seconds as the divine glow intensifies. The guards scramble up, cheering for their lives and questioning this insane supernatural power. One soldier gasps that the kid is a literal god or a walking heavenly temple, but our hero shuts that down humbly, claiming he's just a low-key barrier master. Their leader is totally floored, wondering how a defensive shield can mend fatal bloody wounds. Calmly, the young mage explains the biological mechanics behind his unique protective dome. He reveals the barrier is saturated with high-concentration oxygen and pure light magic. This hyper-accelerates natural recovery, though the soldier admits the science goes over his head. Still, the results are legendary. The hero then asks about the monster they were hunting. Nursing their bruised egos, the warrior warns him to fear a beast known as prey. It stalks these dense woods. Our hero whispers the word vampire with a calculating look. While the cat servant eavesdrops, the man reveals their target, the feared Queen of Night. The protagonist glances at the tiny kitten on his girl's lap with a deadpan face. He wonders how this fluffball is an apex vampire, while the familiar screams internally. He casually drops the bombshell that he already sealed the queen so they can chill. The threat is gone. Hearing this, the squad leader's jaw drops as she shrieks. She's shook by the impossible news and demands to know the blue-haired legend's name. He humbly introduces himself as Rikudo Guardman, while the warrior identifies herself as Seraj. She's the captain of the elite prey hunters. Rikudo finds their squad title pretty interesting. He tries to uncover their true mission, but the vampire cat explains it all telepathically. They are specialists, dedicated to wiping out her entire species. The mage is totally stunned. He's never seen a group with such a lethal specific goal. Seraj bows in respect. She begs the young master to join them, but he gives her a hard no. The captain is blindsided by the rejection. She argues that, with his insane power levels, saving the world would be light work, but Rikudo doesn't have that hero complex. He smiles peacefully, stating he doesn't care about global stakes, only the happiness right here. Gazing at his girl, he confirms she is his one and only true life goal. The leader won't take no for an answer, desperately grabbing his clothes and begging. She literally starts dragging him through the dirt, screaming about their destiny to hunt vampires and save the planet. Next thing we know, the hero is being hauled away. The girl is still howling for him to listen. Meanwhile, inside the carriage, his companion asks about his next move. He just wants to be a basic adventurer. The blonde wonders why he'd skip the hunters, given the stable pay and chill life. Post-exile life hits hard when your organization pays 0 gold. Slaying blood-sucking freaks earns them nothing. The girl fumes, discovering there is no fixed salary. Witnessing this blatant exploitation, Carmilla the kitten begins questioning their sanity. How do these hunters even keep grinding this thankless job? Turns out it is noble duty, but she just labels them total lunatics. Our hero realizes a peaceful life requires a massive bag of cash. Looking pensive, the young man admits landing a real gig won't be easy. The servant asks if her flawed mage master ever worked as an adventurer. Since raw skills are everything, he explains, moving straight from his rural village. From the royal academy to the court, the worried creature asks if he will actually survive. Playing the rookie, the hero wears a terrifying grin, threatening to delete the vampire. The kitten shrieks in terror, shaking violently. Keeping his cool, the warrior reassures her. He endured brutal training and possesses elite combat experience right by his side. His fiancée wonders about the mentor who taught him these god-tier barrier techniques. A beastly roar shatters the night, putting our blue-haired protagonist on high alert. Moving fast, the mage checks the carriage window to scout the dark road. Smirking, the young man notes, the timing is perfect for what is coming. A massive shadow sweeps the sky, revealing a truly colossal dragon. Primed for slaughter, the terrified servant screams that it is a high-rank monster. He is unfazed, remembering he slayed dozens of these during his brutal training days. Plus, dragon parts sell for serious bank. With a flick, the hero reaches out. He summons a radiant cube barrier while counting his future profits. The mage declares this beast's loot will fetch a legendary price. Slammed by the magic, the dragon nosedives and hits the dirt hard. Dust explodes everywhere. Seeing the beast down, he celebrates his perfect technique. While he prepares to loot, a panicked Carmilla asks what he just did. He casually explains he suffocated it with his barrier, leaving her absolutely stunned. The vampire demands to know how he choked out a dragon so easily. Calmly, he says, shields dominate space. To him, it is just second nature. The vampire screams that it is not normal, questioning his complete lack of common sense. The commoner admits he has never actually met other barrier masters before. He has 0 benchmarks. The servant realizes his magic is just built differently. He is clueless about his own overpowered power. She asks why he chose suffocation. Why not use that star shot? He explains that messy explosions are bad. They would wreck the scales and tank the market price, he smirks knowingly. Pristine bodies mean more gold, he confirms, reaching his hand forward. Prepping another flex, he activates a secret spatial storage technique. A blinding flash engulfs the dragon. The servant screams, sounding utterly confused. The beast vanishes instantly. He reveals it is safely tucked inside a shield. She is totally lost. He explains, his barriers are actually high-level spatial magic. They create a pocket dimension. The vampire stares at him in total disbelief. She tries to process the absurdity while he just keeps yapping. He uses this void to store anything. The kitten straight up calls him weird. He agrees, remembering his flawed mage status. The creature just sighs. His common sense is totally cooked. He asks, wait, are you calling me weak? The servant shrieks that this guy's power is insane, making the tiny cat demand an explanation. Our mage shrugs, claiming he's just a defective unit before posing a chilling, calculated question. He doubts the legendary might of vampires, sparking his servant's annoyance as she recalls the ancient eras. Back then, they were the ultimate apex predators. However, he scoffs, the past is completely irrelevant now. As Carmilla throws a literal tantrum, our hero simply yanks her up by the scruff of her neck. Time to head back to the carriage, he declares, ending the mini-drama with a single command. He carries his familiar like a casual accessory, while strolling back toward his beautiful waiting fiancée. Carmilla's crimson gaze intensifies, whispering his name internally. Suddenly, a foul presence chills the air. Shadows dance above as a swarm of dragons invades the sky, catching the protagonist's sharp attention. A massive legion of winged beasts completely blots out the sun over the gloomy, dark woods. Monsters flood the horizon, cranking the battlefield's tension up to 11 as they surround their target. Instead of fear, the blue-haired mage wears a greedy grin, seeing nothing but a mountain of gold. The kitten's jaw drops as her master seriously planning to take on this entire winged army solo. With absolute swagger, he confirms he's diving in. This massive payday is simply too good to ignore. The spellcaster weaves a complex hand seal, igniting his spiritual barrier formula with god-tier precision. A blinding birdcage-shaped prison erupts into existence, showcasing his secret high-level defensive technique. The entire dragon flock is instantly bottlenecked within the glowing walls, trapped with 0 escape routes. Crushing magical pressure begins pulverizing the beasts as the tiny cat watches in pure, unadulterated disbelief. Suddenly, the hero's expression shifts. He senses a strange anomaly hidden within the chaotic magical slaughter. A distinct, malevolent energy lurks beneath the piles of dragon carcasses, setting off his internal alarms. A sharp strike tears through the sky. The servant screams his invincible barrier was just shattered. Expanding the shield naturally dilutes its density, he explains calmly, entirely unfazed by the sudden breach. He narrows his eyes, pinpointing a remarkably resilient monster standing tall amidst the fallen dragon flock. A terrifying zombie dragon lets out a soul-piercing roar, fighting to break free from its magic cage. The cat identifies the horror as a corpse dragon, prompting our lead to wonder what it is. It's a failure of the noble dragon bloodline, she explains, tainted by vampire blood upon its death. This rotting abomination enters a state of perpetual decay, becoming infinitely more lethal and unpredictable. The dark creature asks if her master still intends to seal the beast away. No way, he can't sell trash. He then asks if the beast possesses true immortality. The kitten stammers, unsure of its limits. Since it is not truly immortal, he loses all interest. Since it lacks true immortality, it's useless. He quickly joins his hands to prep a new technique. His servant warns of toxic pollution, but the master guarantees a perfectly clean finish. The vampire gapes in shock, convinced that leaving the beast alive is a fatal, massive blunder. He hears her concerns, but he's planning to vaporize every single molecule on this battlefield. He will blow the whole place up, leaving nothing but silence and a clean victory behind. Light radiates from his body as he compresses an insane amount of mana for the final blow. The kitten screams, feeling the sheer weight of magic concentrating into a single, terrifying point. He gathers the raw energy between his palms, manifesting a blinding sphere of pure, concentrated destruction. Preparing his supreme art, his eyes glow with a piercing blue light. The orb begins to warp. The light collapses into a black hole of energy, hungrily devouring everything in its immediate vicinity. With a cold stare, he unleashes the void technique, aiming to erase their very existence forever. A massive shadow expands, swallowing the entire cage and the dragons trapped within its walls. The zombie dragon shrieks one last time before being completely disintegrated by the absolute crushing magic. As the dust settles, the mage watches calmly, while his terrified servant trembles in his shadow. Speechless from the carnage, she can only think of escaping the terrifying power she just witnessed. Trapped with no escape, she freezes in pure terror as the shadow beast unleashes a blood-curdling shriek. An unseen gravity yanks her toward the heavens, while our hero gazes at the clear blue, knowing the chaos is finally over. Tranquility washes over the blood-soaked field. With a calm smirk, the protagonist shifts his attention to his loyal follower. Smugly enjoying the aftermath, the vampire bellows out, demanding an explanation for that insane display of power. He coolly reveals his ultimate move, the Void Wave. His tiny familiar echoes the name in pure awe. Stunned by her master's god-tier strength, the commander explains the existence of microscopic building blocks. These atoms are the fabric of their very reality. The dark entity stands there, completely losing its mind. It struggles to compute such broken logic. Our main character mentions he based this skill on some legendary theory. Apparently, it mimics the force of a literal nuclear bomb. The servant asks, "Wait, who even taught you that?" He shrugs, admitting he's just as clueless. The kitten's face drops, realizing her master is basically a walking nuke with no manual. He's wielding world-ending power without a single care. Even the vampire shudders, issuing a grim warning. This guy is a walking red flag for the entire planet. Under the peaceful forest canopy, the barrier master nods solemnly. Ignorance paired with that much heat is a recipe for disaster. The beast glares, frustrated by the protagonist's vibe. He's acting way too casual for someone who just warped reality. The servant shouts, "That's not even the point." It's his sheer, unpredictable, raw power that's terrifying. The feline familiar caps off her rant with a burning question. What was that blinding flash that literally deleted everything in a split second? They finally hit the Meducius Empire, and the hero is low-key floored by the massive, stunning architecture. His girl explains they've reached Saladius, a high-traffic hub teeming with adventurers from all over. This city is the Empire's main gate, a melting pot where every race under the sun gathers. Peace is the vibe here. Our hero watches the massive crowd surging through the vibrant streets. The area is thriving and full of energy. The blonde suggests securing a room before hitting the guild. Grinning, she whips out a flyer showing she's already scouted the perfect spot for them. It's the ultimate overnight stay. They pull up to a cozy high-end lodge that looks super inviting. Following her lead, the duo climbs the stairs and halts before their designated wooden suite door. This is their private sanctuary. Suddenly, his face turns bright red as he starts overthinking everything. Is this actually for real, he wonders? But stepping inside, he spots the ultimate trope. There's only one double bed. His stunning partner shoots him a sharp, annoyed look. She glares at her visibly shaking boyfriend before dropping a teasing high-tension question. Don't tell me you're scared to share a room with me. Panicked, the protagonist starts flailing his arms. He tries to stutter out an excuse while the tension peaks, but she just bursts into laughter. She was just trolling to break the ice. With a soft smile, she reaches out to him. She beckons him closer, her eyes full of genuine affection. Our warrior is blushing like crazy. The blue-haired fighter avoids eye contact, processing the romantic vibes. Suddenly, she makes her move. It's time to unwind. She yanks him onto the mattress, refusing to let him overthink anymore. We've traveled too far to be this stressed, she says. He finally lets out a deep sigh. Life's been a total whirlwind since his exile. His fiancée softly praises all his hard work. She whispers sweet dreams before tomorrow's grind starts. Morning light eventually hits his eyes. He's still a bit drained as the sun filters through the cozy inn's window. He pulls up to the Adventurers Guild, ready to finally make his official debut. He wonders if the beast will act up, but our warrior is chill. His tiny follower chimed in. She promises zero drama as they march into the massive hall with total confidence. Striding through the fancy hallway, his life as a pro-adventurer officially begins. He's shook as the automatic doors slide open. This place is high-tech for sure. Scanning the lobby, he spots the reception desk tucked away in the back. The exiled hero approaches the attendant politely, stating his goal to join the guild. The clerk slides a registration parchment over, prompting the newcomer to log his identity into the guild's records. Grasping the quill, our protagonist begins etching his details, officially marking his start as a fledgling adventurer. He checks mage as his class, but as the staffer reviews the sheet, her eyes narrow in confusion. Stunned, she asks if barrier is truly his only skill. With a straight face, the boy gives a firm nod. He declares it's his sole weapon, radiating an aura of absolute certainty that leaves no room for doubt. Taking it in stride, she explains that he must pass a mandatory field test before officially joining the ranks. The news catches him off guard, but she offers a reassuring smile, claiming the trial is just a mere formality. Suddenly, she reveals a shimmering crystal orb designed to gauge the raw depths of a candidate's magical pool. Skeptical, he questions if the glass can handle him. She scoffs, boasting that the relic is magically reinforced and unbreakable. Stepping up, our hero rests his palm on the sphere, letting his dormant mana flood into the device. Instantly, the number 150 flashes, brilliantly catching the young master off guard with its lightning-fast response. Impressed, the wanderer admits his homeland never possessed tech this advanced. It's a whole new world. As the clerk beams with pride, a portly stranger struts in, practically oozing enough arrogance to fill the room. "Hey punk," the man barks. The protagonist glances over, wondering who this noisy, self-important clown could possibly be. The pink-haired noble identifies as Kamas, bragging about his high-ranking status within the Empire's prestigious elite. With a sneer, he mocks the peasant, asking if he's been living in a cave to ignore such greatness. Our hero wonders aloud why a spoiled brat is slumming it here, sending the short noble into a screaming fit. The antagonist scoffs at the idea of a barrier mage, laughing at what he perceives as a pathetic monopool. Unfazed, the boy tells him to buzz off unless he has something useful to say. He's got no time for games. The brat retorts that he's merely offering charity since a defective product has no business becoming an adventurer. Ignoring the noise, the young master refocuses on the orb, unleashing his mana with a newfound terrifying intensity. A blinding supernova erupts within the room as his power surges, shattering the atmosphere into a million glowing shards. Jaws drop as both the noble and the staffer witness a display of pure, unadulterated magical dominance. A subtle, triumphant smirk plays on the hero's lips. He's officially shattered the guild's expectations and their equipment. The arrogant noble stands paralyzed, watching the indestructible relic disintegrate under a flood of eerie blue energy. He shrieks in horror, unable to comprehend how a legendary item could be reduced to mere dust. The clerk panics, stammering that this is impossible. Her professional composure has completely evaporated into thin air. Her face pale, she admits this has never happened in guild history, desperately trying to process the sheer anomaly. Our protagonist realizes the device was simply too fragile to contain the overwhelming ocean of his hidden power. He recalls his earlier warning and rubs the back of his head, feeling a tad sheepish about the destruction. Shaking off the shock, the clerk suggests proceeding to the next phase while the boy asks what else remains. She clarifies that only 2 trials remain: a test of precision and a high-stakes duel against a live opponent. The scene shifts to the expansive training grounds, the stage for the second act of this grueling exam. She outlines the objective: a test of lethal accuracy against a target positioned deep across the field. Pointing to the mark, she explains that sensors will calculate the precise destructive force of his incoming strike. Our blue-haired lead locks onto the bullseye, noting that he must exceed a specific threshold to pass. He inquires if magic is mandatory or if he's permitted to utilize physical weaponry to hit the mark. She confirms that any long-range assault is acceptable, mentioning that even a traditional bow would suffice. Wary of more collateral damage, the boy asks just how much punishment this new target can actually take. With a confident grin, she boasts that the structure is fortified with top-tier spells, making it truly indestructible. Taking a breath, the Wanderer decides to suppress his power. He doesn't need to cause another scene just yet. Seeing the hesitation, the pink-haired noble jeers from the sidelines, labeling our hero as an arrogant pretender. The portly villain barks that a shield-only loser could never dream of scratching such a reinforced monolith. He continues his tirade, predicting a pathetic failure due to the hero's worthless and limited magic skills. Staying calm, the hero watches the spectacle as the rich brat keeps running his mouth. Get ready for a masterclass. This man's about to flex what a top-tier mage actually looks like. The kid just wants to be left alone, but the master locks onto him with a predator's focus. Sensing an insane power surge, the enraged noble screams at the young man to pay attention. He demands the boy witness his purgatory flames as he summons a fire spirit with a sharp snap. The entity flows into his palms, fueling a massive blinding sphere of pure, intense heat. The orb crackles between his fingers as he preps the killing blow. He roars one word, fireball. The ego-tripping noble launches his full might at the dummy, triggering a massive, earth-shaking blast. Thick black smoke chokes the field, masking the entire combat arena in a haze of chaos. Kama starts yapping about his legendary strength, while the staff gape at the absolute carnage he caused. The scoreboard flashes 132 points, an easy pass that puts him way above the average. The spoiled brat smirks, asking if the commoner finally understands what a true master is capable of. Now it is Rikudo's turn. He steps up to the target, looking locked in and completely unfazed. Walking coolly to his spot, the young man wonders if he should even try for real this time. He levels his palm at the wooden circle as the receptionist leans in, eyes glued to his movements. Our hero decides to nerf himself. No need to draw too much heat or break the world just yet. With a quick flick, he launches a star ability that rips through the air like a supersonic bullet. A colossal pillar of light nukes the back wall, sending a devastating shockwave through the entire facility. The target is gone. In its place, a clean hole where the beam vaporized the object effortlessly. The staff and that pink-haired noble are paralyzed. Pure silence. They have never seen power like this. Rikudo is just confused. Why is everyone screaming and freaking out over a simple warm-up shot? The short guy loses it, screaming about how he used magic without a single sacred chant first. Chantless casting is supposed to be for elite legends, but to this commoner it is just normal. The protagonist claps back, noting the noble didn't chant either, which just salts the wound further. His cat servant sighs from the sidelines, wondering if her master knows how cracked he truly is. The staff explains that silent spells are usually weak, yet he just pulverized an unbreakable target. The expensive gear is toast, just a pile of useless shards and scrap metal on the floor. Rikudo is baffled. He is sure he held back his power to avoid breaking anything again. The rich kid is in total denial, screaming that using a barrier to attack is a total cheat. Our hero asks how to prove his skill, so the noble demands an immediate one-on-one duel. The receptionist jumps in, noting the third trial is usually a spar with an official guild pro. The short man points at Rikudo. "Evaluate us together," he growls, eyes burning with pure spite. She asks if the commoner accepts the challenge, glancing at the blue-haired boy's impossibly calm expression. The kid agrees just to end the drama, but the noble promises to unleash his true hell. They square up for a magic shootout. The villain is already tasting victory, thinking he is the MC. The signal rings out. The air gets heavy as the tension rises for the final showdown. In the stone courtyard, the pink-haired noble immediately starts weaving his flame spirit incantations. He preps a scorching heavy strike. Meanwhile, the protagonist just watches the attack with total serenity. He builds his mana in silence. Suddenly, the enemy hurls a massive fireball straight at his face. The inferno streaks across the field to incinerate him, but our hero snaps his spiritual prison into place. A blue barrier flares up to meet the flames. The noble just scoffs at such a simple defense. He brags that nothing can tank his lethal heat, but our mage just gives a sly sideways smirk. He isn't trying to block the strike. He is just redirecting that solar energy's final destination. The noble screams in confusion and hate as the heat sphere barrels toward the boy at high speed. Suddenly, the spell pulls a sharp U-turn in midair. Everyone's jaws hit the floor in total shock. The attack rockets back at its creator. The noble's ego vanishes as he realizes he is absolutely cooked. Panic seized the villain as he watched his own lethal strike hurtle back toward him with doubled intensity. A blood-curdling scream pierced the courtyard while the man desperately scrambled away from his own hellish flames. Suddenly, a violent detonation consumed the arrogant noble, blanketing the training grounds in thick obsidian smoke. The blue-cloaked warrior let out a cold smirk, noting how pathetic and effortless the fight really was. With a grin, he explained he didn't just block the strike, he weaponized that energy against its master. Collapsed and smoldering on the dirt, the pink-haired noble couldn't comprehend how he just got absolutely folded. Rikudo coolly revealed he reflected the magic with a specialized barrier, telling his foe to check his surroundings. Horror-struck as the villain realized he was caged inside a prismatic cube, the legendary magic mirror technique. Impossible, the shorty shrieked, refusing to believe anyone could actually reflect high-tier magic in a real duel. With a piercing stare, the hero retorted that nothing is impossible for a true master of the barrier arts. Crushed by the weight of defeat, the spoiled brat finally realized he was light years behind this lowly commoner. The receptionist applauded wildly, praising his insane performance and confirming he passed the exam with top-tier marks. Surprisingly, the young mage asked if his opponent also made the cut, showing some unexpected sportsmanship. Taken aback, she confirmed the noble passed too, leaving the nearby chubby spectator with his jaw on the floor. Rakudo admitted that despite being a total jerk, his opponent actually had the skills to be an adventurer. Watching from the shadows, his cat servant wondered, is her master a guardian angel, or a world-ending threat? Beaming with a radiant smile, she officially welcomed their newest powerhouse, Rakudo Guardman, to the guild. She emphasized that she welcomed him with open arms and pure joy in her heart on this day. Maintaining his stoic mask, Rakudo locked eyes with her, internally processing that he finally had a steady job. The employee introduced herself as Ranka, clearly hyped to be working alongside someone so ridiculously talented. Radiating excitement, the blonde promised she was looking forward to the legendary missions he'd tackle across the empire. Shifting gears, the commoner asked if the guild bought monster loot, mentioning he bagged a beast on the road. Ranka suggested checking it at the inner counter, but Rakudo just shook his head. That won't work. Baffled by his response, she asked why on earth he couldn't just bring the materials into the reception. Rakudo dropped a bombshell. His dragon was way too massive to fit inside their tiny guild building. Ranka completely short-circuited her brain, struggling to process the words dragon and too big in one sentence. The blue-haired mage began weakening his mana, preparing to reveal the colossal nightmare he slayed on his journey. Suddenly, a mountain-sized dragon manifested in the courtyard, leaving every single person frozen in absolute speechless terror. Ranka let out a terrified shriek, demanding to know where he found such a massive, lifeless monstrosity. Rakudo looked confused, reminding her that magic bags and spatial storage are supposed to be common knowledge. The blonde fired back that a commoner should only know barriers, not high-level spatial dimension tricks. The young man simply stated that barriers can do anything if you grind your skills hard enough. Ranka let out a long sigh, thinking that kind of effort was definitely not humanly possible. Noticing her blank expression, Rakudo wondered if his explanation had actually just broken her brain even further. There, it was a pristine dragon carcass lying on the ground. Ranka noted its scales were in perfect condition. Overwhelmed with curiosity, she asked how he took down a beast that size without damaging the precious body. The exile calmly revealed he simply choked the life out of it during their clash in the dark forest. Stunned, the blonde asked if he drowned it, but the boy just stood there, observing the massive kill. He explained his genius move using barriers to vacuum seal the beast's head and delete all the oxygen. A wave of pure shock rippled through the guild as Ranka's eyes widened in total soul-shaking disbelief. Nearby, adventurers began whispering, claiming such a high-level feat was physically impossible for a beginner-tier spell. Rakudo detailed his technique, trapping the enemy's head in an invisible dome and stripping the air from within. Ranka's face twisted in total confusion. The technical details were way beyond her pay grade. Rakudo quickly apologized for the confusion, promising her there were no cheats involved, just pure skill. Ranka flashed a dazzling smile, announcing that everyone had just witnessed the dawn of a legendary hero. Eyes narrowing, the azure-haired youth gestures toward the massive jade dragon sprawling across the plaza. The titan lies deathly still, leaving nearby warriors awestruck by its flawless, untouched scales. Suddenly, the trembling receptionist breaks out in a cold sweat, stuttering that the guild simply lacks the capital to purchase such a beast. A high-tier monster like this is worth a kingdom. They just don't have that much liquid gold. In pure agony, the boy lets out a frustrated roar. As the crowd reels from the financial bombshell, Rakudo offers an apology, but the outcast just sighs. He blames himself for overestimating this small-town guild. Time for a major pivot in his strategy. He pivots, asking if there's any immediate work ready for the taking. He checks for herb-collecting quests. The blonde clerk confirms a 1-kilogram harvest request is open. Instantaneously, the commoner snatches the job and turns to exit the massive regal hall. She softly hands over the official scroll, pointing him toward the shadows of the nearby woods. The mage offers a quick thanks, waving goodbye as the surrounding hunters watch him with baffled expressions. Boots clacking against stone, he rushes out. Suddenly, a mocking sneer erupts from the noble Kama. He's dying of laughter that our hero is just picking weeds. The portly aristocrat struts forward with his goons. He jeers that herb-picking suits a pathetic shield mage perfectly. Our main character just asks if he's recovered yet. From that embarrassing beatdown in their duel, triggered the villain brags he's heading to the forest to slay actual monsters, unlike this weed-pulling peasant. Eyes burning with spite, the rich brat warns him to stay out of the deep woods. Trash like him can only hide behind a shield. He shouts that he's just giving friendly advice so the boy doesn't bite off more than he can chew. The fat noble swaggers off with his crew, leaving a visibly irritated Rakudo in his wake. Watching this, the kitten wonders if that noble is brain-dead for underestimating her master's terrifying power. Our hero realizes people are blind to reality and chooses to focus on his new mission. He begins his trek toward the tree line, focused on securing those requested medicinal plants. Reaching the city gates, the mage scans the horizon, ready to finish this guild contract. Suddenly, he triggers his barrier magic in a bizarre way that sends a chill through his immortal pet. The little familiar shrieks in terror as she realizes her master is casually hovering mid-air. With effortless grace, the youth touches down right in the heart of the thicket. "We've arrived," he declares. In that split second, the master flashes a soft smirk as his companion continues to complain about his wild stunts. Carmilla barks that he's an idiot, demanding to know why he's treating flight like it's no big deal. She demands how shields allow for flight. The outcast calmly reminds her it's all about the barrier. His silver pendant pulses with light as the vampire's soul reels, absolutely offended by his logic. "This makes zero sense," she screams. His magic usage completely shatters every known law of the world. Unfazed, the protagonist explains that the secret to his flight is actually ridiculously basic. He kneels, snatching a pebble to demonstrate his theory to his completely bewildered familiar. He manifests a geometric shield around the stone, explaining it's anchored to a fixed point in space. The rock hangs suspended in a magical void, while he breaks down the physics of his ability. With a simple hand wave, the commoner moves the barrier, the stone, following the dome's every shift. Defying gravity, he reveals the trick. He just wraps his own body in that very same shield. Then he just moves it and I soar through the skies. Reaching the woods, the warrior preps for harvest. The cat doubts he even knows which plants to pick. Eyes sharpening, the master invokes a massive barrier. Encompassing the entire grove, he plans something wild. Carmilla wonders if that noble is a total moron for underestimating her master's insane power. With a thoughtful expression, the youth begins to speak. Casting it over the greenery, he prepares a game changer. Carmilla questions the noble's sanity for doubting him, for ignoring her master's undeniable might. Looking inward, the young man offers a final thought. Humans only witness what they desire to see. Smirking, our hero strides forward and declares that harvest time for those rare herbs has finally arrived. Right then, the azure-haired youth readies his move. Standing resolute in the vast clearing, the warrior triggers his defensive barrier magic with intense focus. He breaks down the mechanics of his spatial authority, while his maid loses it, shrieking as he defies reality. Touching down lightly on the meadow, the low-born youth coolly remarks that they have already reached the exact target zone. Keeping his cool, the master flashes his partner a subtle, knowing grin, while she continues her relentless nagging. The furball snaps, barking at him to stop acting so nonchalant, when he is literally a total monster. Unbothered, our main character explains that his flight relies on basic and easy logic. With a lightning-fast motion, he leans over and snatches a random pebble from the dirt to prove his point. Suddenly, the youth manifests a mystic dome, locking onto precise spatial coordinates for his next move. The stone hangs suspended within the shimmering void, defying gravity above the forest soil. With a flick, the mage guides the shield, proving it obeys his will. He then admits he flies, by coating his entire frame in that same defense. While his aide shoots him death glares, the beast asks if he can actually spot rare herbs in this overgrown mess. Instead, the boss unleashes a massive barrier, shrouding the greenery, declaring this chore will be over in seconds. Suddenly, the magical construct begins collapsing, pulverizing everything within. The youth then triggers his inventory system, sending a blinding light across the whole field. The undying servant is left stunned and silent, witnessing his insane logic and finally admitting his sheer brilliance. Elsewhere, a highborn ally gripes about being left for dead while sprinting frantically through the thick forest. However, the entitled brat screams that his survival is priority number one, ditching everyone behind. Out of nowhere, the round guy collides with an unseen wall, howling in agony as he hits the dirt hard. Rakudo emerges, telling him to shut it. He has locked him in a cube to keep him from interfering. Brushing off the trash talk, the azure-haired lead readies his linked bullet strike. Instantly, a projectile slams into the beast, pursuing the girl, clutching the save. Our hero stares down the fallen monster, with cold, lethal eyes ready to end this mess immediately. The rescued lady glances at her savior, checking if he is unharmed. Following the brief clash, slumped on the earth, the blonde girl pours out her gratitude for his perfectly timed intervention. Smirking slightly, the outcast tells her to save the thanks since the nightmare is not over. She looks utterly bewildered, questioning his cryptic warning. Suddenly, a blood-curdling roar shakes the trees as the air turns suffocating, saturated with pure malice. That arrogant noble starts shaking like a leaf, sensing an impending disaster. A hulking, shredded orc stomps into view, and the small dude identifies it as the legendary B-rank Orc King. Pale with fright, the wealthy brat screams that they are all dead meat. The wimp collapses, sobbing for his mommy, while our hero watches the scene unfold, with absolute chill. Eyes burning with rage, the beast glares at the party, itching to pulverize them. The massive monster lunges skyward, club raised high to crush the azure-haired youth with max power. But he just flashes a cocky grin, completely unfazed by the incoming strike. In a heartbeat, the Titan is caged within a multi-layered, radiant, and unbreakable barrier prison. Stunned, the noble questions how that beast got shredded so effortlessly. Our main character then explains that he combined his wire-style offense with barrier morphing. He clarifies that he compressed the shield into a razor-thin filament, creating a lethal edge. But the brat refuses to believe a void mage could pull off such high-level sorcery. The outcast confronts his rival, with a sharp, self-assured gaze following his total forest domination. Grinning, he warns that, if the rich kid keeps labeling everything impossible, he will stay a loser forever. Cut to the guild, where a massive ruckus grabs everyone's focus. Stepping inside, the azure-haired youth spots a major riot, and a weird buzzing. A mob of warriors crowds the counter, leaving the receptionist visibly shaken. A man in a travel-worn hat pleads desperately for aid, his voice trembling under the woman's worried gaze. Our hero steps in to investigate the commotion, and the staff member's eyes widen with instant recognition. Gasping with relief, she hails his perfect timing, urgently asking about the medicinal herbs. The stranger wheels around, desperation in his eyes as he begs for a massive supply. Dead serious, our protagonist demands the exact quantity required. Pointing a shaky finger, the man declares they need a staggering 100 kilograms of the raw material. The mage rubs his chin, lost in thought, as he softly echoes the massive quantity the man just named. Fearing his hesitation, the adventurer asks if it's an impossible task, but the youth casually mentions he's packing 500 kilograms. The man's jaw hits the floor in pure shock. The receptionist stands frozen as the boy sheepishly confesses that he went a little overboard during the harvest. Stunned, she stammers the question again while the hero reaches out to manifest his haul. He summons a literal mountain of medicinal herbs, a massive green tidal wave of leaves that strikes the entire guild silent. His expression then hardens as he asks if there has been a disaster involving mass casualties or injuries in some distant land. The hatted man nods solemnly, saying yes. A nearby village is under siege, its residents broken and bleeding from a series of brutal, unexpected assaults. He explains that a frantic emergency message arrived, begging for every single healing potion left in their inventory. Mana begins to swirl around the mage as he grips the herbs, readying himself for this critical mission. The blue-haired youth wonders aloud if he should head to the front lines personally to treat the wounded. Startled, the man asks if the kid is some kind of doctor, but the humble commoner simply replies that he is just a veteran barrier master. He reveals he can use his shields to stitch flesh and mend bodies. Floored by such incredible power, the man agrees instantly, finally grasping the gravity of their incredible luck. He welcomes the new ally without a second thought, swearing to entrust the villagers' lives to the boy's hands. As the mage puzzles over such blind trust, the adventurer flashes a knowing grin and explains that he has a pro's eye for spotting elite talent like our hero. The exile narrows his eyes, radiating a cold determination to crush this crisis and save every single resident of the kingdom. Clasping his hand firmly, the veteran pleads for the boy to protect the village and his endangered comrades. Our hero asks for the coordinates and learns the target is Ito, a town nestled in a neighboring realm. The name rings a bell, and the protagonist realizes the village sits right on the border of another famous territory. Recalling its proximity to Myoko, he instantly starts calculating the fastest route to the disaster zone for an immediate departure. The man mentions he has already got a carriage prepped for the long trek, but the barrier master just shakes his head, declining the ride. The man stares utterly confused by his words. As the mage extends his palm to weave a high-level spell, the warrior calmly explains that he has visited before and can zip there in seconds. The veteran freezes in pure shock, stammering about teleportation, as the hero simply nods and vanishes with him in a blinding flash of light. They materialize instantly in the town square, the boy jokingly reminding him he is just a shield-focused mage. The man throws his arms wide in pure joy, praising the insane utility and bragging about his eye for talent. Flashing a soft smile, the blue-haired hero beckons his ally to rush toward the emergency site. The exile surges forward, his mind razor-focused on mending every broken body in this village, with lightning speed. But they suddenly skid to a halt, paralyzed by the surreal and twisted nightmare unfolding ahead. A massive green monstrosity hoists a crude wooden club, smashing through the terrified locals. The beast lunges with bared fangs as the barrier master realizes this isn't a solo act, it is an orc raid. More hulking brutes emerge from the shadows, blindsiding the local adventurers before they can even draw steel. A lone warrior desperately tries to parry a crushing overhead strike, but the raw impact of the blow explodes in a cloud of debris. Clad in black, the youth watches the knight struggle to hold his ground. while gauging the overwhelming enemy numbers. Then a colossal nightmare-fuel orc bellows a bone-chilling roar, unleashing the full savage wrath of his kind. The dust clears to reveal a horrifying legion of monsters, swarming across the vast fields. Unfazed, the protagonist notes that starving monsters usually form massive hordes like this. Our lead realizes the city's under a full-scale siege. The legendary nightmare-inducing monster march has arrived. Paralyzed with fear, the hatted merchant breaks into a cold sweat, desperately pleading for a survival plan. Amidst the chaos, the warrior wastes no time conjuring a glowing barrier to shield the elderly man. "Stay put," he commands. The mage then raises his palm, channeling a massive surge of glowing blue mana. Charging his ultimate spell with a deathly serious glare, he vows to end this nightmare in a single heartbeat. Suddenly, the mage ignites his spatial technique, detonating a massive spell that blankets the entire battlefield. A massive light cage traps the entire orc horde instantly, leaving a nearby blonde adventurer completely shell-shocked. With a simple flick of his wrist, he reveals this barrier hides some seriously deadly surprises. The blonde warrior attempts to move forward, only to discover the barrier selectively grants passage to allies. He declares the magic is specialized. Every human can pass through the shimmering walls without any resistance. With the orcs caged, the townspeople erupt in cheers while our blue-haired hero promises to finish the job. Watching the spectacle, one soldier suggests striking the beasts down while they're trapped and helpless. The protagonist shuts that down, leaving the panicked merchant wondering what he'll do to that monster army. Clenching his fist tight, the master collapses the cage, mercilessly crushing every single orc inside. An adventurer screams in terror, watching the barrier shrink as the monsters are pulverized within. Following a blinding flash, the geometric prison dissolves, leaving no trace of the monster horde behind. The blonde warrior mutters that it was brutal yet undeniably efficient, a terrifying display of raw power. The remaining fighters roar with triumph, hoisting their blades toward the clear blue sky in celebration. Weeping with relief, the merchant thanks the boy, crediting him for saving the entire village from total ruin. Our hero offers a quiet smile as tranquility returns to the town once overrun by monsters. Shifting to a grand cathedral, the protagonist announces he's starting the mass healing for the wounded survivors. The survivors gape in shock as their gashes stitch shut instantly, the pain vanishing into thin air. Lurking in the hallway, the blue-haired teen observes his pet kitten strutting across the plush red carpet. With a calm expression, he scans the room, mentally prepping for the next phase of his mission. Suddenly, a gut-wrenching scream echoes as a woman desperately tries to save a mangled man. The protagonist approaches with a steely gaze, silencing the woman as she tries to explain the tragedy. The hero merely reaches out his hand, glowing with intense blue light over the grieving, sobbing woman. The man looks completely gone. With a piercing gaze, the boy carefully observes this heart-wrenching scene. Within the hallowed silence of the church, the merchant approaches to offer his deepest gratitude. Bowing low, the merchant admits that without the boy's intervention, this day would have ended in massacre. However, the hero reveals his work is far from finished, leaving the veteran trader totally baffled. The protagonist stays stoic, while the merchant awkwardly tries to bring up the topic of a cash reward. Perplexed, the adventurer questions his meaning. After all, every last orc has already been eradicated. We catch a glimpse of the blonde woman, her soul crushed by the lifeless body on the bench. The mage drops a massive bombshell. He intends to resurrect everyone who lost their lives today. The merchant's jaw hits the floor, refusing to believe a human could perform such a god-tier miracle. Firmly, the boy confirms his plan to revive the fallen. Even his kitten's eyes widen in disbelief. His servant questions the possibility. After all, not even the world's peak magic can cheat death itself. With chilling composure, the barrier master insists he can do it, his eyes locked onto his target. The feline vampire loses it, screaming hysterically inside the master's head in a total panic. Stumbling back, the tiny beast stammers that reversing the end of life is absolutely insane. While the creature rolls around in shock, the hero stands dead still, prepping his ultimate forbidden sorcery. The servant's tail quivers with pure dread as she realizes her master isn't joking about this at all. Shrieking that resurrection is impossible, the creature is ignored as the boy focuses on the impossible task. Claiming his techniques can defy fate, he begins chanting his secret art to unlock the sacred realm. Channeling every ounce of mana to defy reality, the feline finally grasps the true essence of purification. She reveals it is the pinnacle of restorative arts, the ultimate miracle. Suddenly, the familiar questions if her master just forged a realm fit for deities. Grinning, the mage acknowledges her sharp intuition, while his smirk never wavers despite the crushing pressure. Moments later, ethereal spirits descend from the celestial gates, seeking their cold, vacant shells. Within that hallowed ground, a radiant pulse surges into the fallen man's heart, igniting a resurrection that shatters the laws of nature. Drenched in sweat, our low-born hero gasps that the soul has anchored, yet the delicate procedure still demands his absolute, unwavering concentration. He meticulously knits flesh back together, weaving raw mana to mend shattered bones and torn tissues. Without warning, the man draws a ragged breath and looks up. Life has officially reclaimed its prize. The blonde throws herself onto her partner, sobbing hysterically as the impossible miracle unfolds before her eyes. Watching the tearful reunion, the caster collapses, drained bone dry after unleashing such an insane amount of raw sorcery. Carmilla watches in awe, realizing that snatching a soul back from the abyss is a feat beyond any mortal. It is not omnipotence. The vessel must be intact, and the departure must have been just moments ago. Still, his eternal companion stares in disbelief, certain now that her master has transcended every boundary of the human race. Panting heavily, the azure-haired youth struggles to fill his lungs. As chaos erupts throughout the cathedral, suddenly every survivor drops to their knees before the exhausted fighter, bound by profound reverence and debt. Caught off guard, our hero freezes, realizing he has suddenly become the eye of the storm. The merchant wails, declaring that the truth has finally been unveiled, and that this kid is nothing less than a living god. Beneath the holy icon, the boy feels the heat. Desperate for an exit strategy, he watches as the sacred emblem erupts in a blinding heavenly glow. The cringe is real for our hero as the crowd starts worshipping him like an actual deity from myth. Power walking away, the blue-haired teen bails before this misunderstanding spirals into total madness today. The duo stalks through the village alleys, a thick veil of mystery trailing behind them. Intrigued, the kitten demands the tea. His broken abilities completely defy all logic. Raising her voice, the familiar screams about how he went from nuking everything to literal resurrection. She points out that no mere mortal pulls off stunts like that, demanding to know who trained a simple commoner. Maintaining his stride, the mage starts spilling about the mentor who forged his path. He admits he had a teacher, and the vampire feline's ears perk up, dying to know more about this legendary shadowy figure. He explains that his sensei was restricted to a unique forbidden craft known as null magic. We then see the world revolves around 6 primal elements: earth, water, fire, and wind. The protagonist drops a bombshell. There is a legendary 7th element, the elusive and god-tier null category. Strolling through the metropolis, our hero explains that his barrier arts belong to a whole different league. Shaken, the tiny feline asks if this mentor could actually surpass the barrier master himself. Without a single shred of doubt, the boy declares his teacher is infinitely stronger, wielding god-tier knowledge. Then the warrior drops a bombshell, revealing her name is Lova Mary. His immortal servant is paralyzed with fear. The vampire stands frozen mid-street, eyes wide as dinner plates reeling from the name. Sensing the vibe shift, the exile asks, "What's up?" But the cat has completely lost her words. She recalls that Lova Mary is one of the 8 legendary mages to ever grace the planet. She shudders, knowing this woman is the terrifying Witch of the World, a figure bearing a heavy fate. Our hero is puzzled by the titles Witch of the World and Sentinel of the Underworld, wondering which one is legit. The tiny servant explains that the latter is just a sweet nickname people gave his master. The kitten adds that she keeps a constant, unyielding vigil over the realm of the dead with absolute iron-fisted discipline. Because of this, the Sentinel guarantees that no vile soul ever crawls back to the living world. We glimpse the mighty Lova Mary, perched on a stone throne watching the river of lost souls. The legendary mage appears with a gaze that cuts deep, as lightning fractures the obsidian sky. The vampire notes that every demon alive feels pure, unadulterated terror at the mere mention of her name. Smirking, she finally realizes where her young master's insane power comes from. The exile nods, admitting his training was nothing short of hellish, claiming she could drop dragons with her bare fists. The blue-haired youth adds that magic wasn't even needed against ancient and god-tier beasts. He drifts into thought, recalling the rainy day he first met his master. Through the downpour, we see a tiny boy shivering on the ground as the witch looms over him, with a cold, intimidating presence. Overwhelmed, the servant starts sobbing, realizing she's been caught by the disciple of a literal, living legend. The kitten feels utterly trashed, cursing her absolute trash luck for being bound to the barrier master. But he tells her to chin up as they stroll through town, toward their next objective. This sets the little beast off and she screams that he is the absolute last person she wants to talk to. Cut to the guild. The drama with the hatted merchant has been settled for the better. The hero tells the receptionist he's heading out, but a firm grip stops him. Startled, he looks back to see the blonde clerk isn't ready to let him slip away just yet. The blue-clad warrior asks what's going on, waiting for her to explain herself. Then, she pleads with the mage to stay put while she sprints to find the guildmaster. Our blue-haired lead wonders if there's a real emergency since she's looking totally stressed out. The clerk explains the big boss wants a serious face-to-face with him very soon, but the boy admits his first mission drained him, so he gives the invitation a hard pass. He just wants to crash at home and rest, suggesting they reschedule. His feline servant watches the scene closely while her master tries to wiggle out of the awkward vibe. Softening his voice, he apologizes to Runka, the receptionist, making it clear he's gotta go. Suddenly, he raises a palm, igniting a blinding light right in front of the stunned girl. The blue warrior smirks, telling her the boss can wait, as his body begins to fade away. With a burst of sapphire light, the barrier master teleports, vanishing from right before the blonde's eyes. In the blink of an eye, she stands there, jaw hitting the floor in total disbelief. Baffled by how he pulled off such a clean escape, the scene shifts to the inn facade, as our hero muses on how exhausting the day was. Stepping inside, the blue-haired boy feels totally spent from his hard work. Suddenly, the tiny cat Carmilla trots up to his fiancé's feet, who was counting the minutes until he returned. Bubbling with joy, the golden-haired girl cries out his name and dashes toward him, making her longing obvious. In a blur of affection, she leaps into the mage's arms and pulls her future husband into a crushing hug. She flashes a blinding smile, declaring that having him home is all that truly matters. He holds her back, whispering that being home, exhaustion vanishes instantly. Our hero's jaw drops as his chaotic life finally settles into a peaceful rhythm. Is it finally time to kick back? Watching this romantic vibe, the immortal vampire keeps a sharp, judgmental eye on them. Exhausted, the champion collapses onto his bed. The blonde beauty seizes the moment to snuggle up. They start vibing while perched on the mattress edge. She teases that his mission took forever. With a calm, steady gaze, the boy confesses it was a wild ride. His bride-to-be gushes over his hard work as he ponders. He encountered so many souls today, realizing just how massive and diverse this world truly is. His current life is the total opposite of his dark past. Grinning, his lady reminds him that people finally see his true genius and worth. Suddenly, he remembers those counting on him, ignoring that salty, jealous noble from before. The cat familiar lounges nearby, while the mood between the two gets super wholesome. Sprawled out, the commoner notes that adventuring will secure their bag and future. The warrior locks eyes with his queen, vowing to make her the happiest girl alive. Flustered by his sudden riz, her face turns bright red and her eyes sparkle. She flashes a dazzling smile, pouring all her love into the man who rewrote her fate. Suddenly, the fiancé pounces on his chest, pinning him down in a burst of pure chaos and giggles. With their faces inches apart, the tension peaks, leaving our blue-haired lead totally shook. Blushing, she asks if she startled him, admitting she couldn't resist his peak cuteness. Clinging to his hands, she whispers that just being near her master makes her whole. Staring at the ceiling, the protagonist feels the love and thanks his lucky stars for her. They share a deep, warm embrace on the bed, soaking in this rare moment of total peace. Meanwhile, Carmilla, the cat, watches with pure bruh energy. She can't stand the cringe. Finally, the girl tucks her head against his chest and drifts off, feeling safe in his protective grip. Then we see the kitty, Carmilla, grooming herself while enjoying the sudden silence of the room. The stunning fiancé leans in, radiating pure devotion in this intimate moment. But suspiciously, the tiny feline narrows her eyes, wondering if this whole scene is just a hallucination. Fast forward a few days. The guild's massive gates appear, signaling that vacation time is officially over. Ranka drops a bombshell today. Our blue-haired legend will finally face the organization's shadowy top boss. The hero recalls the meeting, while thinking back to the recent monster swarm that wrecked the nearby lands. The receptionist's face is stone-cold serious, proving this meeting is a big deal. He wonders if it'll be a grind, but she confirms a high-level quest is waiting. With a heavy sigh, the exile accepts the call. He knows an adventurer's duty never sleeps. Stepping into the grand office, the guildmaster gauges the situation while scanning the young commoner with intense focus. The boss greets our hero by name and gestures toward a high-end lounge. Staying classy, the old man points to the couch and tells him to take a seat for the briefing. Rakuto gets comfortable as the chief leaks news of a crisis threatening the entire empire. Clasping his hands, the veteran reveals a bizarre anomaly from the past few days that needs a pro's touch. He explains that ancient ruins spawned out of thin air, terrifying the local citizens. Confused, our blue-haired lead asks about the danger lurking within those forgotten walls. The master warns that the entities inside look human, but they are anything but alive. Shadows of walking corpses flicker in the distance, and the leader confirms the dead are rising. The hero prepares for an undead nightmare. Reality hits. This isn't just a mission, it's a nightmare. The chief drops the final chilling confirmation. Top-tier agents were deployed, yet they crawled back empty-handed. Rakuta's mind races. Could they be facing a literal immortal? Telepathically linking with his vampire subordinate, he eyes his cross pendant, reaching a grim realization. The odds of a high-ranking undead surfacing are skyrocketing. If this monster can't be killed, there's only one play. He'll have to seal it away just like he did with little Carmilla. Meanwhile, the guildmaster recalls something. This kid recently crushed a high-rank solo mission without breaking a sweat. Betting on the boy's insane potential, the veteran asks the blue-clad mage for help personally. Grinning, our hero clocks the mission, wipe the ruins clean. He locks in the challenge instantly. Stunned by his zero hesitation vibe, the veteran bolts upright, second-guessing the kid's resolve. Is he seriously taking this on? The commoner agrees to step up, but there's a major catch. He expects a massive payday for this headache. The leader promises the bag will be secured. Walking out of the massive guild hall, his steady footsteps echo as he heads toward the unknown mystery. Enveloped in secrets, the warrior finally reaches the village, his mind filled with heavy questions. What's the deal with this ghost town? Scouting from above, the eerie silence feels totally wrong. No villagers in sight. He senses a nearby dungeon spawn, crushing his plans to gather local intel. Scanning the deserted streets, our protagonist locks in his senses, screaming that something sinister is lurking nearby. Darkness radiates from the shadows. Carmilla feels the shiver and sends a telepathic SOS to her master. Death is in the air. Out of nowhere, an ambush strikes, but he activates his signature Hibiki barrier instantly. Absorbing the blow, a massive magical construct erupts, shielding entire blocks from the devastation. Protecting the whole village in one go, the Colossus defense glows as the blue-haired hero readies up. Bracing for the threat, the barrier master is encased in a sleek, geometric dome. He's primed for a counter-offensive. Hand-glowing, the warrior surges his mana to push his limits. He takes total control of the field. Suddenly, he spots two kids and the vibe turns lethally tense. While he scans the perimeter, his cat servant shrieks in panic, begging him to keep the barrier up. The young man calmly explains that his Hibiki barrier isn't just for defense. It doubles as a radar. He confirms only 2 human heat signatures remain in this wasteland. Gearing up for the unknown, the exiled mage sharpens his focus on the shifting shadows. He tracks the survivors' locations, while a twisted silhouette emerges from the thick, unnatural fog. It's definitely not human. The vampire servant issues a chilling warning about what's lurking ahead. Undead monsters are prowling these cursed lands. Right then, a distorted shadow glides through the wreckage. Something's crawling between the ruins, the enemy is right on top of them. Suddenly, a decaying, monstrous face appears. Terror saturates the air. A bone-chilling roar shatters the silence as the creature loses its mind. The beast unleashes its full fury. Unfazed, our protagonist watches the chaos unfold from his high ground. While he stays icy calm, little Carmilla is totally traumatized. She realizes the target is a feral zombie. It's a woman twisted into a literal nightmare. She lunges with terrifying speed, but the young mage doesn't even flinch. More shapes sprint down the street. The undead horde is multiplying by the second. The servant screams for him to run, warning that one single bite means game over. Our hero just shrugs it off, completely unbothered by his cat servant's frantic screeching. Low-key annoyed, the little monster asks why he hasn't vaporized the beast yet. Before things get worse, the barrier master drops a bombshell. He won't kill this creature. Leaving her stunned, the zombie lunges for the kill. He's seconds away from getting chomped. The zombie tackles him with raw force, but the exile stays locked in on his secret play. Stone fragments crumble as an eerie sound rings out. Right then, the truth comes out. The monster goes for the throat, but only chews on air and stone from his invisible barrier. Smirking, the Azure Mage grips a radiant key, proving his crafting speed is straight up broken. He nonchalantly notes that shield arts demand intense focus, yet for him, it's a total breeze. He emphasizes that forging such durable defenses normally takes forever. Instead, the prodigy masters it instantly. He locks eyes with the creature and makes his move. In the desolate silence, he prepares a wild maneuver. Reaching out, the master declares he's healing the target. He instructs the woman to hang tight for just a few seconds. Faint light radiates from his palm as shimmering blue embers dance through the air. Boom! A massive energy pillar swallows the zombie, drenching her in a blinding holy radiance. The feline familiar recognizes the spell. It's the same magic that saved those adventurers from the orcs. However, the hero smirks as the light flares, revealing this process is on a whole different level. He explains that while it mimics healing, he's actually pulling off high-tier manipulation within his barrier. Shaking with shock, the vampire screams that being undead isn't a sickness, it can't just be cured. Fuming with confusion, the little servant shouts that his actions literally break every law of physics. Suddenly, the woman's gray flesh transforms, regaining the warmth and texture of living human skin. Stunned, she stares at her restored arms, unable to fathom how her body reverted so drastically. The catgirl loses it, shrieking that she can't wrap her head around her master's impossible feat. Coley, the blue-haired youth, clarifies that he simply rewound time within the confines of his magic dome. The servant huffs in disbelief, demanding to know if controlling time is even legally possible. The creature vents her frustration, calling her master annoying as an eerie silence settles over the village. Our blue-haired protagonist heads toward a massive stone gate tucked away within the mountain peaks. Stepping boldly into the darkness, the hero prepares to challenge the lurking horrors of the dungeon. Without warning, a horde of undead creeps down the stone steps with bone-chilling, jagged movements. A monster hisses, baring decayed fangs at the commoner, but he just stares back completely unfazed. The mage simply raises his hand, unleashing a flash of brilliance that swallows the ravenous ghouls whole. As the spell lands, the restored villagers sprint home, their hearts overflowing with overwhelming relief. He asks for details, but realizes the survivors' minds are a complete jumble of fragmented memories. Deep within the abyss stands a colossal ancient gate guarding the kingdom's most treacherous secrets. A woman recalls reaching the entrance, but after that, everything just goes pitch black and blurry. Listening closely, the hero deduces that their memories were systematically wiped by this cursed place. Rubbing his chin, the protagonist mulls over the door's mystery while assessing the danger ahead. With sharp eyes, the Azure Warrior decides he must breach the structure and investigate immediately. Treading the vacant halls alone, he stares down the shadows of this royal ruin without a hint of fear. Suddenly, the cross pendant on his chest flares up, casting a gentle, soothing glow through the dark. The holy seal blazes as the youth channels his mana, shielding his soul from the ruin's corrupting evil. The cat familiar pops up, whining that he's busy curing zombies and playing bodyguard for peasants. Glaring at him, the tiny monster snaps that her master is a hopeless case and way too extra. The MC shrugs, arguing he couldn't just leave her suffering, and besides, it was no big deal. Irritated, the vampire bares her fangs, yelling that he treats legendary feats like some playground game. She fumes that teleportation is top-tier sorcery, yet this shield user makes it look insultingly easy. Unfazed, the hero explains that barriers are just space manipulation, then tells his servant to listen up. He breaks it down when forging a shield. The caster defines the dome's interior and exterior boundaries. Following that logic, the mage anchors one point here and another at his target destination. He then bridges them with a rapid mana tunnel, allowing him to warp between locations instantly. In a heartbeat, he vanishes, leaving the tiny feline totally lost. Despite the lecture, the vampire screams that she still doesn't get it at all. He demands to know who those people were. Our master presses for answers, but the tiny creature quickly clamps her hands over her mouth. Eyes cold, the young hero demands the truth, but the girl just shivers in absolute terror. She stammers that those names are forbidden. Trapped, the servant whispers that speaking them is a death sentence. High-tier beings would erase her instantly. Watching them spiral, our hero wonders what monsters could inspire such raw dread. Who are these shadows? The blue-haired warrior narrows his eyes, wondering if they're facing elite vampire royalty, the true lords of night. Suddenly, a violet miasma chokes the air as ghouls prowl the crumbling ruins. Blood-curdling roars erupt as the duo braces for the nightmare waiting at the end of the hall. His gaze sharpens. He will uncover every secret once this quest is over, no matter the cost. Their boots click against the stone, a rhythmic pulse echoing through the freezing, deathly silent dungeon. Descending to the abyss, they finally face the massive looming gate from the villagers' chilling tales. This is the place. The warrior tightens his grip, sensory skills maxed out for any incoming ambush. Eyes locked on the objective, he orders the charge, his chest glowing with the pendant's soft, ethereal light. They heave the doors open, stepping into a grand hall bathed in the flickering golden light of torches. An eerie sight greets them, rows of figures standing at attention before a magnificent, opulent throne. Perched there is a woman in glasses, her aura radiating pure authority, flanked by two loyal subordinates. This enigmatic woman watches them with a chillingly calm, superior smirk from her seat of power. The hero calls it out. She's the apex predator, one of the high-tier vampires ruling this dark domain. Stunned, the familiar asks how he knew. His response, a simple, calculated hunch. The glasses-wearing villainess locks eyes with him, her pupils erupting with a fierce electric blue mana. Her mana is insane, a crushing tidal wave that dwarfs Carmilla's power in every way. Unnatural groans ripple through the undead ranks. The vibe just went from tense to lethal. Now, the corrupted villagers close in wielding sharpened steel and heavy combat gear. The cat spirit panics, but her master remains unfazed, completely indifferent to the swarm of enemies. Spears level and arrows knock as the hall transforms into a suffocating, blood-soaked war zone. The ring of drawn steel echoes. These aren't rusty scraps, but high-grade, master-crafted blades. A circle of elite warriors closes in, poised for the signal to start a total bloodbath. Our hero demands to know, is she the puppet master, pulling the strings of these corpses? Boom. A blinding nova erupts, blowing back the monsters just as they launch their lethal charge. His blade hums with raw magical pressure. The ultimate counterattack is fully charged and ready. Those are ancient grandmasters, she shrieks. They're wielding actual divine-tier relics. He just scoffs, completely unimpressed. The little vampire can't believe his absolute lack of respect. To him, the weapon is irrelevant. His mission hasn't changed, and neither has his resolve. He triggers his heavy impact skill, channeling blinding barrier light directly into his right fist. One swift punch sends a massive shockwave ripping through the crowd, clearing the path instantly. Watching the monsters fly, the hero knows the real boss fight starts right now. The vampire queen watches the carnage with glowing eyes, totally unfazed by his display of power. Little Carmilla points an accusing finger, whining that using barriers like that is basically a cheat code. If they're using overpowered relics, I'm using my maxed out defense, he counters. That's just strategy. She is stunned into silence. His logic is so cold and flawless, she doesn't even have a comeback. The blue-haired ruler flashes a wicked, mocking grin. This little chat is actually starting to entertain her. Looming from her throne, she exudes pure menace as she analyzes the two intruders before her. The tension becomes physical. Sparks practically fly as our hero's gaze locks with the vampire's icy stare. She asks why a mere human would dare enter. His answer, "I'm only here to seal you away." Her laughter echoes through the hall. She stands up, the dungeon's final most brutal trial has officially begun. Every soul in the room feels it. The point of no return is finally here. She flashes a predatory grin, finding his strategy straight up hilarious. Slowly, the sovereign rises from her royal throne. With chilling authority, she declares, "It's time to toy with this brave little insect." She reveals her true title, Libra of the Scales, as her suffocating aura floods the entire chamber. A golden artifact erupts with light radiating high-level mana. Then the villain's lips part. She screams the command to strike, unleashing her servants in a full-throttle assault. No mercy, she commands as a massive tide of monsters surges through the hall. An undead legion crawls from the shadows, crashing toward the lone commoner like a lethal wave. White eyes gleaming with malice, the monsters charge, eager to pulverize anything in their path. A zombie's blood-curdling roar confirms their lost humanity. Watching the encroaching horde, our hero readies himself. He shields his terrified cat servant as a sea of monsters completely swallows the corridor. The final showdown ignites. From her high vantage point, the mistress watches the carnage with a smirk. She waits for the mage's gruesome end, but the monsters slam into an unseen barrier. Their eyes burn with bloodlust even in the crush. Meanwhile, the blue-clad youth stands firm. Safe inside a shimmering geometric dome, the tiny vampire drops a dire warning. These mindless husks won't stop until they're dust. The master absorbs the intel, staying focused. He stays icy, calm, much to the annoyance of his frantic little companion. With a sharp gaze, he realizes defense alone won't clear these cursed ruins. The undying horde piles up, forming a mountain of rotting flesh and pure fury. Channeling his mana, the warrior breathes deep. It's time to end this circus. Suddenly, a massive shockwave erupts from the dome, blasting the zombies into the distance. Beasts go airborne as he exerts spatial pressure, clearing the floor in a literal heartbeat. Yet they scramble back up, showing tank-like resilience that absolutely terrifies the cat vampire. Stuck in a stalemate, the youth realizes wasting time on these pawns is useless. Locking eyes with the enthroned villain, he warns his next strike is aimed solely at her. His arm ignites with raw energy as he preps a rapid-fire spell. Shouting Star Bullet, he unleashes light projectiles that slice the air like divine arrows. A shot strikes with pinpoint accuracy, carving a path through the wall of corpses. Azure light illuminates the gloom as another enemy falls. Watching the incoming barrage, the bespectacled woman doesn't flinch. With a subtle flick of her wrist, she smirks and preps a counter. Suddenly, she strikes the air with devastating force, unleashing a crushing pressure that rattles the entire chamber. Our hero's eyes widen in shock. Her power is far beyond his expectations. A blinding beam strikes the dungeon's ceiling. The fight intensifies in the ruin's depths. The villain's hand erupts with a sinister glow, revealing her deadly ace. With a deafening crack, the invincible barrier shatters into pieces. Stunned, the duo freezes, but the blue-haired youth quickly regains his razor-sharp focus. Defense gone, they stand face to face as the atmospheric pressure reaches its breaking point. With terrifying speed, the warrior launches a direct strike at the sovereign's head. He's aiming for an instant kill. Carmilla screams, desperate to know if it's finally over. But a hand casually brushes her head. The previous attack didn't leave a single scratch. Smirking behind her glasses, the vampire asks the youth a chilling question. Did he really expect to one-tap an elite? Her cold gaze screams immortality. Low-tier injuries won't kill her. Panic finally sets in for the cat servant. How do we kill a monster that won't die? The master takes a steadying breath. It's time to unleash his ultimate trump card. Moving with calm precision, he rests a hand on his ally's shoulder, anchoring her with newfound confidence. Our exiled lead declares that the vampire cat's assistance is the linchpin for his next master move. He needs a window to chant the spell, ordering the girl to tank the incoming horde solo. Furious, the tiny beast screams that soloing a literal zombie army is a total suicide mission. The master cloaks her in a shimmering blue aura, surging his own raw power into her veins. From her high perch, the villain cackles, vibing off the pure desperation of these pathetic invaders. As the rotwalkers swarm, the kitty threatens to dip the second things get too hairy. With a stone-cold glare, the hero vows to snuff her out himself if she dares desert her post. Fuming, the petite servant stares him down, questioning if her master is actually a cold-blooded demon. She screams, accusing him of being a literal monster for making a defenseless girl fight all alone. No time for talk, the vampire charges the undead legion, her roar echoing with absolute loathing. Gripping her silver blade tight, the kitten readies herself to carve through anyone in her way. In a flash, she readies her steel, locking onto the sea of monsters, closing in fast. The tiny fighter dives into the fray, unleashing a storm of lethal strikes upon the ravenous dead. Her blade rips through a monster's chest, proving her power has hit a completely new level. Moving like a shadow, she mows down enemies, carving a bloody trail through the pitch-black hall. With eyes blazing crimson, the servant stands her ground, refusing to flinch against the overwhelming danger. From afar, the blue-haired youth observes confident that his partner can handle the heat on her own. The underground queen rubs her temples, clearly losing her patience with this tedious little sideshow. Both leaders exchange smirks, knowing the real showdown is finally about to kick off. Suddenly, the golden scales flare up, signaling the awakening of a terrifyingly ancient power. Hoisting the relic, the bespectacled villain claims the first move, telling the human his fate is sealed. Her gaze sharpens as she invokes Libra, making the very air thick with suffocating mana. A brilliant blue flame ignites before the hero manifesting the azure-haired mage's untainted soul. Then a shadowy, ominous fire drifts upward, representing the eternal essence of the immortal vampire. The foe sets both souls upon the scales, commencing the final judgment in the hollow silence. Eyes locked on the relic, the blue-haired queen waits to see which soul carries more weight. The enchanted scales tilt, exposing the deepest spiritual secrets of every warrior in the chamber. The Shadow Sovereign proclaims that her divine ritual of ultimate judgment has finally begun. The blue-haired youth absorbs the lecture on the raw might of the soul versus mental fortitude. Smirking, the enemy explains that the dominant soul will simply crush the weaker one into submission. Realizing this is a battle of will, the warrior confidently declares his victory is already set. Boom, the scales slam down on his side, leaving the vampire girl absolutely stunned and speechless. She screams, claiming her eternal existence should grant her the mental power of a literal god. With a winning smirk, the boy in blue proves he anticipated this outcome from the start. She argues her immortality saves her, but the hero retorts that he only needed a distraction. Dazed, the woman watches as the Azure Mage winds up for his most devastating ultimate move. Summoning an angel, the warrior expands a massive magic circle across the entire grand hall. A golden flash erupts. He screams Sariel as majestic white wings unfurl into the air. A godlike, golden-haired figure manifests towering right behind the blue-haired mage. Sporting a radiant halo, the celestial beauty looks on with an eerily calm and serene expression. Locking in our hero, readies the finishing strike, backed by his new luminous ally. The servant roars, igniting her blood manipulation to unleash a wave of crimson energy. She conjures razor-sharp blood threads that impale multiple undead monsters in a heartbeat. The glowing-eyed beasts are completely helpless against the little vampire's lethal onslaught. Flashing a devious smirk, the girl flexes. She refuses to waste such peak moves on mere fodder, but her ego blinds her, letting a monster ambush her from behind. Shock freezes the catgirl's face as the beast lunges. Trapped in a death grip, she thrashes wildly against its suffocating strength. A scream of pure agony and rage erupts from her. Suddenly, the young vampire whirls, shredding every enemy in her path. Another Rotwalker hits the dirt, proving her lethality. Gasping for air, she checks if her master is finally hyped for battle. These low-tier zombies are trash, she admits. Yet an immortal knows, being buried under a mountain of bodies is a nightmare. Glaring at the infinite tide, she knows her clock is ticking. Suddenly, a blinding golden radiance floods the entire chamber. Majestic celestial wings unfurl, leaving the catgirl absolutely floored. She stares up her brain, short-circuiting at the divine sight. Even the big bad villainess is shook, trembling before this holy aura. She shrieks in total denial, unable to process the power. A literal angel has been summoned into this hellhole. This breathtaking celestial being drifts with godlike grace behind the barrier. Master, the enemy queen demands to know how a basic human could ever boss around a literal god. Pure panic consumes the blue-haired woman as she screams impossible. Meanwhile, our main character stands cold and composed beside the angel. Their combined pressure crushes the atmosphere. He sighs, admitting he really didn't want to flex this forbidden cheat code today. The warrior slams his foot down, triggering a massive golden eruption. He clenches his fists, radiating pure, unadulterated holy energy. Pulsing with god-tier power, he whispers a single word. It's go time. The final stage of his ultimate technique has begun. He syncs his soul with the angel, forging a magnificent golden blade. The hero now grips a weapon straight out of legend. He's ready to end this whole career in one hit. The vampire queen shrieks her mind, reeling at the impossible sword. The divine sword gleams in a glorious close-up. Clutching the hilt, our protagonist finally reveals the name of this absolute unit. The dimensional blade Eternal Edge. The villainess pales, recognizing the name of an ancient, world-breaking divine artifact. She recalls legends of this blade slicing through reality itself. This thing should be a myth, lost to the ancient past. It's supposed to be extinct. But the hero just smirks, explaining this is merely a perfect imitation of the original blade. By merging angelic essence with his barrier arts, he's manifested the ultimate weapon. It's fake, but the power is very real. Our protagonist begins his march toward the enemy. He strides through the hall with stone-cold confidence, ready for the final showdown. His eyes burn with the absolute resolve to end this now. The four-eyed vampire starts spiraling into a total panic. Reality hits, she's completely paralyzed. Her feet are literally rooted to the spot and she can't comprehend why she's frozen. He drops some cold truth. A dominant soul can effortlessly crush the will of a pathetic weakling. With a mental flex, he commands her to stay put. He mocks her, calling it absolutely pathetic to be outplayed like this. To be destroyed by your own logic is brutal. The blue-haired woman begs for mercy, but our hero's heart is cold. He hoists the divine sword for the execution. His eyes flare with intensity as he charges up a world-ending strike. In a blur of motion, he brings the blade down with godlike force. The slash connects and blue particles erupt from her. As she shatters a massive dimensional rift, tears open behind her, sparked by the sheer impact of the sword. He cold-bloodedly declares her sentence, eternal imprisonment in the void. There is absolutely zero chance of escape. He watches with a grim expression, ensuring the job is done. The villainess lets out one final blood-curdling shriek of despair. The void swallows her whole. Her reaching hand is the last thing visible before the light consumes her entire existence. The rift snaps shut, leaving the throne room in silence. With the threat deleted, our barrier, Master scans the quiet battlefield. The adrenaline fades as his angelic ally begins to pixelate into shimmering gold dust. The divine contract is finally over. The glow vanishes, leaving the dungeon in peaceful darkness. The immortal cat servant is standing there with her jaw on the floor. She's totally shook after witnessing that god-level play. Her brain is literally lagging, trying to process the absolute insanity. The mindless zombies just stand there, lost without their queen. The kitten stammers, asking if that was a legit angel. He confirms it was, then drops a terrifying warning. Snitches get sent to the same shadow realm. She shrieks in terror, nodding like a bobblehead. But then she pouts, complaining about his lack of main character vibes. I literally put my life on the line for you, she huffs. Getting zero appreciation is honestly so toxic. So cruel, she whines. Our cold barrier master actually lets out a tiny rare smirk at his companion's antics. He actually drops a thanks Carmilla, admitting she was a help. The servant is stunned into silence by the sudden praise. Blushing and flustered, her ego quickly rebounds. She starts bragging that her brilliant efforts carried the whole team. He immediately shuts her down, telling her not to let it go to her head. Then she pauses to ask, ever wonder why he didn't unleash such a god-tier technique immediately? Our hero explains that tapping into this power requires summoning his fiancée first. But there's a catch. Every appearance risks exposing her existence to the world. To keep her safe, he seals this trump card for dire emergencies only. Cut to a few days later, at the dungeon's maw, where the aftermath tells a wild story. An elite silver-haired warrior with a katana strapped to his hip approaches the ruins. This guy reeks of veteran experience. He stops dead when he sees the massive stone entrance reduced to absolute rubble. Stepping inside, the eerie silence is deafening. The throne room is a literal graveyard, littered with the broken remains of the undead, scattered across the floor. The swordsman pauses, trying to wrap his head around the sheer scale of the carnage. Suddenly, his partner arrives with a shocking report. The high-tier vampire they were tracking has completely vanished into thin air. Not a single trace of the monster remains. The warrior in the white coat narrows his eyes, realizing something is off. This wasn't a tactical retreat. He concludes that an unknown force must have definitely sealed the powerful vampire lord. His partner is floored, wondering who could possibly cage such a high-level entity. The swordsman asks about a teleportation escape, but his comrade shuts that theory down immediately, claiming those monsters are far too arrogant for that. To them, the word retreat is a foreign concept that doesn't exist. Still, sealing a boss-tier threat seems impossible. But then the truth starts to sink in, and he deduces that only a top-tier powerhouse from their side could pull this off. He falls into deep thought, while scanning the wreckage. But wait, a severed hand twitches on the floor. The nightmare isn't over just yet. The undead start crawling back to life. A sea of red-eyed zombies emerges from the shadows surrounding our warriors in the hall. The monsters rise with a terrifying hunger, and the room fills with blood-curdling screams as they launch a frantic charge. While one swordsman stays cool as ice, the fury of the horde intensifies as they lunge forward with savage rage. But then, in a flash, absolute zero hits. The zombies are instantly encased in frost, shattering into millions of ice shards. The entire hall is transformed into a beautiful but deadly crystal tomb with the monsters frozen in time. The silver-haired warrior surveys the frozen wasteland with a chilling, detached gaze. He mutters that, at the very least, these poor souls can finally find peace in their icy graves. His partner mocks his sentiment, but gets quickly shut down. Suddenly, he catches a lingering scent of unfamiliar mana in the air. He vows to memorize this unique power signature, forever swearing that if he ever crosses paths with the owner of this magic, he'll recognize them in a heartbeat. His comrade is left wondering what kind of monster could seal a vampire like that. Meanwhile, we cut to our MC, who's looking cool, calm, and incredibly smug. Back in civilization, we arrive at the bustling Adventurers Guild. Our hero drops the good news to the guildmaster. The threat is neutralized. The old man is beyond relieved, praising his decision to hire him. Our blue-haired protagonist beams as he's handed the heavy reward for a job well done. His jaw drops at the massive mountain of gold coins. With literal stars in his eyes, he thanks them for the payout, for the generous reward. He flashes his new fortune, celebrating the absolute jackpot he landed today. Strolling through town, he celebrates their financial freedom. But the little black cat at his side has other thoughts, and begins to grill him. She questions his silence. Why didn't he mention the presence of a high-ranking vampire lord in that dungeon? He explains that the truth would have forced him to expose his fiancée's secret. The cat nods, admitting that legendary battle was actually light work for him. She then wonders what kind of foe could actually challenge him in a real fight. He muses that an enemy immune to his complex seals and barriers might finally give him a real challenge. Changing the subject, the kitten asks if his fiancée remembers their battles. He sighs, explaining that she's completely oblivious, since she's essentially in a deep slumber when summoned. Just then, they finally make it back to their cozy inn, where they are staying. His gorgeous fiancée greets him with a smile that could light up the whole room, welcoming her warrior home. The blonde beauty notes his early return with a playful grin. Our hero can't help but smile back at her, and then looks at his immortal cat servant. The feline is currently wearing a look of total unimpressed boredom, but his fiancée scoops her up with pure love, showering the cat with affection. The servant looks super awkward, yet she silently tolerates the crushing hug. Watching this, our protagonist is suddenly hit by a wave of pure envy and irritation. He grumbles low-key, wishing he'd left the cat tied up while his girl asks about his day with a sweet smile. He assures her the mission was a total cakewalk. Now it's time for them to head out and drop some cash. Despite the massive payout, his lover declines instantly, playfully cupping his face. She insists they budget for later, while cuddling the kitten. Our hero sighs deeply. He concedes his partner is right, watching her admire the view outside their room. Within their cozy lodge, the blonde winks, teasing that they might splurge just today. The azure-haired youth gazes at her with pure adoration, melting at her proposal. The pair gears up for excitement, embarking on a romantic date beyond the inn. Together, they navigate the bustling avenues of the Grand Empire City toward the market. As she browses fresh produce, the exile vows to protect his angelic companion forever. Shadowy threats loom. He knows predators will inevitably target her pure soul soon. The mage dreads losing her while they enjoy a warm, savory feast. While savoring their meal together, the hero flashes a confident, reassuring grin. He will guard her at any cost as their journey continues with allies. They roll through gorgeous landscapes in a wagon, seeking a brand new destination. Aiming for a fresh start, he refuses to keep her settled too long. Suddenly, the kitten spots a mysterious cloaked figure lurking among the fellow travelers. He looks dangerously suspicious. She questions if they are safe around this weirdo. The barrier master remains unbothered, calmly telling her there is no need to panic. No immediate threat exists yet. The cat realizes he is just testing the stranger. With narrowed eyes, the immortal familiar maintains a sharp watch on the enigmatic man. Their trek continues under clear skies as she leans softly against his shoulder. She beams at the pleasant warmth, while the blue-haired mage smiles back tenderly. Suddenly, his face hardens and his eyes snap wide. The kitten senses his shift. Dangerous monsters are closing in. She is shocked he detected 2 orcs already. He explains he cast a razor-thin detection web through the dense forest nearby. Impressed, the cat realizes ambushes are impossible now. The youth prepares his counterattack. Channeling offensive energy, his hand flares as he readies his lethal star projectiles. Geometric light shards manifest around the carriage, locked onto their targets for execution. Energy beams streak through the trees, slamming directly into the charging orc brutes. The monsters collapse instantly. The kitten marvels at her master's elegant, precise power. She claims he is invincible, but the young man reveals a critical vulnerability. The familiar probes further. Monsters are easy targets, but humans require more caution. He must confirm human intent first. Suddenly, a hostile roar echoes across the road. Freeze if you want to live. A band of brigands blocks their path. He gestures toward the thugs, finally confirming their dark intentions for the first time. Empty your pockets. One criminal aggressively seizes the driver by his collar. Thugs surround the wagon as a bald giant mockingly promises to spare them. Their sinister smirks prove they mean business. The barrier master watches with icy resolve. With a terrifyingly serious expression, the young mage slowly raises his palm. Blue mana surges as his fiancée looks on, trembling at the unfolding chaos. He sits beside the suspicious hooded man, whose face is finally revealed to us. The stranger stays eerily still while the kitten analyzes the approaching threat. The familiar knows he could crush them, but the youth admits a problem. She is confused. These low-level thugs should be child's play for him. He confesses his barriers are too lethal for humans. He lacks fine control. He refuses to let his beloved witness such a gruesome, bloody spectacle. She senses her master's growing unease. The exile's barrier magic is straight up overkill for a situation like this, she whispers. The immortal entity realizes his might would vaporize mere humans. Plus, the young man adds, that's not the only thing. There's a deeper mystery here. As the cat probes for answers, he points toward the real threat, that freak nearby. That unsettling aura is radiating from the shadows. The hooded stranger remains motionless, his eyes sealed shut in deep meditation. What's so creepy about his energy? The servant asks. Nearby, a bandit grumbles about their pathetic haul of loot. He sneers at the measly coins in his palm. Meanwhile, at the wagon's rear, a chilling scene unfolds. A mother and child huddle together, trembling under the thug's gaze. Suddenly, a brute snatches the little girl's arm. With a twisted grin, the bandit claims the girl as his prize. Panic explodes in the mother's desperate chest. Please let her go, the woman sobs. She collapses to the dirt, desperate to stop this waking nightmare. She clings to the thief's leg, begging for mercy. The thug's face contorts with pure, cold annoyance. He clicks his tongue in disgust. A brutal kick sends her flying as he snarls, "Get off me, hag!" The girl's terrified screams pierce the air as she watches her mother get struck down. Easy now, she's a real beauty, another crook sneers. The mother shudders, paralyzed by their predatory, scornful stares. A blond man steps forward, tilting her chin up with a sickening, malicious smirk on his face. With a vile glint in his eyes, he offers a revolting replacement for her stolen daughter. The woman reels in absolute horror. Watching from the side, the hero's fiancé wears a mask of cold fury. Her knuckles turn white. She can't stomach this cruelty for another second. Right at that breaking point, the blonde beauty grabs her man's arm, signaling for action. The barrier master meets her gaze, wearing a deadly, confident smile. Unfazed, the bandits continue their reign of terror on the innocent travelers. Suddenly, two voices roar in unison. Unhand her. The protagonist and the mysterious hooded man rise simultaneously. They confront the scum together.